Chapter 330. Noah and Orange stared at each other from a distance and didn't say anything for a long time. Orange was waiting for Noah to speak. Noah, on the other hand, did not know how to answer Orange's question. Noah naturally did not know why Golden Wolf Bio had such a change after seeing him. Therefore, Noah could only continue to guess that it was the effect of the world fragment. No matter what kind of effect the world fragment had on Golden Wolf Bio, he did not know if it was a good thing that Golden Wolf Bio started to disobey Orange's orders. After all, it was unknown whether Bio, the Golden Wolf, would go berserk and turn the entire Sanyi city upside down after losing Orange's restraint. Of course, for Noah, after knowing that Golden Wolf Bio was overly obsessed with him under the influence of the world fragment, he was somewhat relieved. At least, Noah did not have to worry that Golden Wolf Bio would mysteriously go missing. If Golden Wolf Bio was really affected by the world fragment and reacted to him, then it was only a matter of time before he came looking for Noah. At that time, Noah would be able to retrieve the world fragment that was lodged in Golden Wolf Bio's body. At that moment, Noah smiled indifferently. "Did you ask me out just to ask this question? This is considered one of your goals, right?" Orange looked at Noah from afar, a different kind of expression surging in her originally cold eyes. She looked like she was staring at some kind of prey. Under such circumstances, Orange asked a question. "What's your relationship with Aoko?" Aoko? Noah was a little surprised by Orange's sudden question. Then, he suddenly realized something. From the beginning, Noah felt that Orange gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Now that Orange reminded him, Noah suddenly realized that this sense of familiarity came from Orange's expression. That awe-inspiring yet valiant expression was not exactly the same as Aoko Aozaki, but they were very similar. Orange, Aoko, could it be? Noah's heart skipped a beat, and he spat out 4 words. "Ouchie Orange." Orange raised his chin. He didn't say anything, but the expression on his face gradually became joyful. "Thank you for taking care of that useless little sister of mine." This disguised admission made Noah's face sink. Ouchie Orange. Aoko Aozaki. Noah's guess was right. Orange and Qingzi were sisters. Biological sisters. Although we haven't met for a few years, I can still predict what kind of abilities Qingzi has. Oh right, Yuzhu is also my good friend, and I know her very well. Before I came to Sanyi City, I already had a perfect plan on how to deal with Qingzi and Yuzhu. Qingzi's voice turned cruel. "It's just that I didn't expect that a person would suddenly appear in this battle and affect my trump card. I originally thought that you were Qingzi's hidden trump card, but now it seems that you also have your own position. What's your relationship with Qingzi?" Orange asked for the second time. The way she looked at Noah was no longer cold and irritable. Instead, she became interested. "According to your answer, I will also decide what kind of treatment to give you in the next battle." That one sentence made the atmosphere, which had dropped to the freezing point, become tense. After a while, Noah suddenly laughed. "My relationship with the Qingzi you mentioned is very vague. If you want to use something as a standard to measure it, right, what's the relationship between us?" "We kissed." "Kissed?" Orange was stunned. When she came to her senses, she couldn't help laughing. "That is to say, you are Qingzi's possession." "Qingzi's possession?" Noah shrugged. "I don't object to your understanding, but if you must, I hope you can understand it differently." Saying this, Noah's face showed an intriguing expression. He looked straight ahead. "It's not that I'm Qingzi's possession, but that Qingzi is my possession." The smile on Orange's face gradually disappeared. Her eyes fixed on Noah gradually turned cold, as if she had abandoned all feelings. "I understand. You are Qingzi's trump card, and you are destined to be my enemy. That's all I need to understand." After saying this, Orange turned her back, exposing her almost perfect back to Noah's eyes. Are you ready at the last fulcrum? I will also go back and prepare. The next time we meet, it will be the time to kill. After saying this, Orange didn't look back. As if she had completed the most important task, she left the park with powerful steps. Looking at Orange's vivid back, Noah found it hard to believe that she was a puppet that crawled on the ground like an ant. With the technology to create puppets of that level and a fantasy breed that was even stronger than a dragon, ouchie Orange was definitely a strong opponent. Looking at Orange's back, Noah turned around and walked out of the park against the cold wind after a while. At the corner of the road outside the park, Wenbing Yonglei stared at Noah with fox-like eyes. She still had a calm smile on her face. It's rare to see Orange talk to someone for so long. It seems that you two get along very well. I don't know if I get along with ouchie Orange yet. Noah stopped and glanced at Wenbing Yonglei, but I know that we will never get along. After saying this, Noah's body suddenly moved. As if turning into a shadow, he appeared in front of Wenbing Yonglei like a ghost. The smile on Wenbing Yonglei's face froze. Her pupils shrank, and her body instantly tensed up. She jumped and retreated quickly. Almost at the same time, a hand appeared out of thin air, piercing through the air and passing by where Wenbing and Yonglei had been standing. At this moment, a cold light flashed in Wenbing Yonglei's eyes. Her body suddenly stopped retreating. Like a spring, she charged forward instead of retreating. Clang! A cold, lightning-like light lit up from Wenbing Yonglei's thick cloak. Like a poisonous snake, it stabbed toward Noah viciously. That speed seemed to have surpassed the speed of sound. It flashed through the air. No matter how powerful a magician was, once this attack that seemed to surpass the speed of sound got close to them, they would definitely die. For such an attack to appear from a priest who wasn't even a magician, it could only be described as a godly skill. This was the priest of the Hetian Church Wenbing Yonglei. He was an existence that even Orange found difficult to deal with and was on guard against. However, in front of Wenbing Yonglei, there was an even more incredible existence. Even if he didn't use magic, he still had terrifying strength. A hand suddenly appeared from the side. Like an arrow, it cut through the air. In a thousandth of a second, it suddenly touched the cold light that shot toward Wenbing Yonglei. Paw! With a crisp sound, the strong hand grasped the wrist of Wenbing Yonglei, who was holding the cold light. At this moment, the lightning-like cold light showed its full appearance. It was a saber. A very sharp long saber. Whoosh! In the next second, against the air and with the sound of the wind, a leg that turned into a shadow hit Wenbing Yonglei's chest heavily like a ferocious whip. Bang! A muffled sound and a strong impact exploded in front of Wenbing Yonglei's chest at the same time. Gurgle! Wenbing Yonglei groaned. Her whole body was directly hit into the air. Like a kite with a broken string, she smashed into a wall. Puff! Wenbing Yonglei, who was almost embedded into the wall, felt a sharp pain in his chest. His body twitched, and his face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which splashed all over the ground. His body slowly slid down the wall. At this moment, the foot that had just heavily kicked Wenbing Yonglei's chest suddenly flashed and fell on Wenbing Yonglei's body. Bang! Another muffled sound came. Dong! Wenbing Yonglei's body, which was slowly sliding down along the wall, was directly trampled to the ground. Gurgle! The sharp pain from her chest and the impact from her back made Wenbing Yonglei spit out a mouthful of red blood again. Like a blood flower, it sprayed to the sky and then fell down again. Wenbing Yonglei's paler face was dyed red. Chapter 331. Cough cough. At this moment, Wenbing Yonglei felt as if his body was no longer his own. Apart from pain, all other sensations were far away, and he couldn't feel anything at all. I thought I could take you down in one move, but I didn't expect you to be so capable. As expected of the church's lackey, even if you're not a magician, you can still display considerable strength. No wonder Ouchie Orange is so afraid of you. On the other side, Noah still had one foot on Wenbinjiangli's chest as he looked down at Wenbinjiangli, whose pale face was dyed red by dark red blood. There was a smile on his face, but there was no smile in his eyes. However, for a priest to carry a weapon used to kill, you are really incompetent. Saying this, Noah slightly crouched down and touched the half of Wenbinjiangli's body that was covered by the cloak. He immediately took out two sharp long swords. In other words, including the one in Wenbinjiangli's hand, Wenbinjiangli had a total of 3 long swords on him. Clang clang. The sound of the sharp long saber being casually thrown to the ground echoed, which made Wenbingyong, who was a little confused, more or less sober. Cough cough. Wenbinjiangli raised his pale face that was dyed red by blood and looked up at Noah, who had one foot on his chest. He actually laughed out loud. Compared to a magician, I am indeed incompetent. I don't have the decisiveness of a magician to casually attack others based on their mood. No matter what, I can't be careless, based on your mood. Noah narrowed his eyes and laughed. You're right, my mood is indeed ruined by you. Noah gradually increased the strength of his foot that was stepping on Wenbinjiangli's chest, causing Wenbinjiangli's pale face to gradually turn red. Then, Noah's voice drilled into Wenbinjiangli's ears. I say, Sir Priest, don't tell me you think you've hidden your killing intent very well. Looking at Wenbingyongli's face that was gradually turning red, the expression in Noah's eyes was abnormally cold, and there was a faint smile on his face. From the moment we met at the gate of the Kuyueng mansion to the moment we met Ouchie Ching in this park, the killing intent released from you made my skin feel a bit painful. Wenbingyongli's expression changed, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. Obviously, Wenbingyongli really thought that he had hidden himself well and had not been discovered by Noah. And after Ouchie Orange asked you to step down, on the surface, you obediently stepped down, but do you really think you can hide it from me? In fact, you've been hiding at the side looking for an opportunity, right? Noah continued to speak as if he didn't see Wenbingyongli's reaction. Find a chance to attack me. Wenbingyongli's heart turned cold. Even this had been discovered. Ouchie Ching is right, you're a madman. Noah coldly looked at Wenbingyongli. If I attack you based on my mood, then you don't have any reason to kill me. Wenbingyongli, Sir Priest, do you really think I won't do anything to you? I have a reason, didn't I say it before? Wenbingyongli was silent for a while, and suddenly smiled. I just want to try to kill you. This sentence did not make Noah feel angry, nor did it make Noah feel frightened. Instead, it made Noah's gaze on Wenbingyongli begin to become sympathetic. The man in front of him could no longer be described as crazy, but an extreme emptiness. No matter who it was, as long as he wanted to kill someone, he must have a reason. This reason could be because of benefits, or it could be because of personal feelings. Even if it was a madman who took pleasure in killing, since killing made the madman feel pleasure, then the madman would kill in pursuit of pleasure. This was also a reason. But for the man in front of him, killing did not need a reason, nor did it need to be mixed with any personal feelings. It was purely a choice of kill or not kill. In other words, Wenbingyongli was not so much a person, but a knife. A knife that could kill would never have any feelings, nor would it have a reason to stain itself with blood. As long as someone wielded it, it could kill. Wenbingyongli was such an existence. For Wenbingyongli, the only reason for killing was probably the so-called whim. Just like in the past and now when he wanted to kill Noah twice. Because he wanted to kill, he felt that he could kill, so he would do it for no reason. It was this kind of Wenbingyongli that made Ouchie Ching use the adjective madman to describe him. This person could no longer be called a person. Perhaps, the reason why Wenbing Yongli accepted Ao-Chi Cheng's request and brought Noah here was just to find a chance to kill Noah. Besides that, there was no other reason. Noah's pair of deep dark eyes swept over Wenbing Yongli, and then the corner of his mouth slowly raised. You're a human on the outside, but you're a weapon on the inside. Killing is the only meaning of your existence. Other than that, you're nothing. Your existence really makes people feel sympathy for you. Originally, I wanted to directly deal with you, a dazzling guy, but now it seems that breaking a knife swung at me doesn't give me any sense of accomplishment. I'll give you another way to deal with it. After saying that, Noah stretched out his hand and put a finger on Wenbing Yongli's chest. The magic in his body slowly gathered and concentrated on the finger, so that the tip of the finger bloomed with magic light. Then, under Wenbing Yongli's gaze, Noah seemed to be drawing something as it slid across Wenbing Yongli's chest. Buzz! A second later, a rune flashed in front of Wenbing Yongli's chest as if it had taken root. Countless root-like veins extended from his body and covered his entire body. Almost at the same time, an indescribable pain attacked Wenbing Yongli's entire body and even his nerves. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream erupted from Wenbing Yongli's mouth. Looking at Wenbing Yongli, who was twitching and screaming on the ground, Noah looked at him coldly as if he didn't see or hear anything. This is the runi that represents pain. The activation condition is when killing intent emerges in your heart. Hearing this, Wenbing Yongli was shocked by the indescribable pain all over his body. The activation condition was when the killing intent emerged in the heart. What did this mean? It meant that if Wenbing Yongli continued to be affected by this runi, he would never be able to summon killing intent in his entire life. For Wenbing Yongli, whose only purpose of existence was to kill, Noah's actions were robbing him of his purpose of existence, turning him into a real zombie. Oh right, let me tell you something. The method to remove this runi is very simple. You just need to use more magic to attack it. Noah glanced at Wenbing Yongli, who was in so much pain that the veins on his face were bulging. That would require around 30 magicians to use all of their magic to do it, right? 30 magicians. That wouldn't be a difficult number for the Magic Association to gather. However, Wenbing Yongli wasn't a member of the Magic Association, but rather a member of the Holy Church. They were the enemies of the Magic Association and viewed magicians as heretics of the Holy Church. You want the Holy Church to help Wenbing Yongli find 30 magicians to remove the runi. Then the Holy Church would rather use the name of dedicating my life to the Lord to leave Wenbing Yongli to his own devices. As for Wenbing Yongli, it would be extremely difficult for him to find 30 magicians to help him. After all, there were less than 5 magicians in Sanyi City. Only the headquarters of the Magic Association would have so many magicians, right? Moreover, it wasn't certain if anyone would choose to help Wenbing Yongli. Therefore, unless something unexpected happened, Wenbing Yongli probably wouldn't be able to remove the runi for the rest of his life. Realizing this, Wenbing Yongli laughed instead of being angry. You're really strict with me. Noah didn't even bother to pay attention to Wenbing Yongli. He turned around and left without hesitation, heading towards the Joyuan Temple residence. At the scene, only Wenbing Yongli was left staring at Noah's back as he endured the pain on his body, letting out muffled groans. Presumably, Wenbing Yongli's killing intent towards Noah wouldn't subside for at least an hour. Chapter 332. It was already noon when Wenbing Yongli found Noah and left the Kuyuanji mansion. Now, with the time spent on the road and the confrontation with Ao-Chi Orange and Wenbing Yongli, when Noah returned to the White Dog Mound and walked along the slope to the gate of the Kuyuanji mansion, the sky just began to darken. The setting sun appeared with the dusk, illuminating the iron fence of the Kuyuanji mansion. Pushing open the iron fence and walking into the courtyard, Noah walked along the tree-lined path to the front door of the mansion and entered the entrance. There was only a pair of shoes at the entrance. They were Aoko's shoes. In the mansion, other than Noah and Yuju, Aoko's lifestyle could be said to be purely Japanese. Even if there was no one at home, she had to greet them. She would not wear shoes when she entered the mansion. Therefore, Aoko's shoes were usually placed at the entrance of the mansion. If there were slippers, it meant that Aoko had gone out. If there were slippers, it meant that Aoko was in the mansion. As for Shizuka Kusajikuro, his way of life was purely for the purpose of convenience. For example, in the winter, in order to keep warm, Shizuki Kusajiro would wear shoes when he entered the mansion. If the weather was not cold, he would go barefoot. He was quite casual. Noah and Yuju, on the other hand, would definitely wear shoes when they entered the mansion. They would not allow themselves to be barefoot. Therefore, when he saw Aoko's shoes at the entrance, Noah knew that Aoko had not gone out and was still in the mansion. The door on the east side of the hall was wide open. The light from the living room was also projected from the door, illuminating a corner of the hall. Noah, who had sensed Aoko and Yuju's aura from the living room, immediately walked through the door on the east side. He pushed open the door and entered the living room. In the brightly lit living room, Aoko and Yuju were sitting on the sofa facing each other. One was watching TV while the other was quietly reading a book. When Noah entered the living room, whether it was Aoko who was watching TV or Yuju who was reading a book, all of them turned their heads towards Noah. Their gazes were all fixed on Noah. If it was any other time, Aoko and Yuju would have ignored Noah's return and continued with their own business. But today was clearly an exception. "You're back." Aoko looked straight at Noah. "I thought you would come back later." "That's what I thought at first, but things seem to have been resolved faster than I thought," Noah casually replied as he sat down beside Aoko. "Where's Jingshi?" "He went out to work." Aoko replied in a perfunctory manner before asking with a serious expression. "Why is that priest looking for you?" On the opposite side, Yuju also looked closely at Noah. She seemed to be very concerned about this question. The relationship between magician and the church wasn't good to begin with. Although Wen Bingyongli was neutral and didn't side with the church or magician, his identity was still very sensitive. Besides, no one knew what kind of person Wen Bingyongli was better than Aoko and Yuju. To put it bluntly, that person only remembered his own matters and did things based on his own mood. He was a complete egoist. For such a pretentious person to purposely come here to invite Noah out, no one would believe that nothing had happened. Noah turned his head and didn't say anything. He just looked into Aoko's eyes. His dark and deep eyes were filled with a look that Aoko couldn't understand. "WH. What are you doing?" Aoko, who felt a little uncomfortable, subconsciously wanted to turn her head away. However, her innate unwillingness to admit defeat made her suppress this impulse. Instead, she glared fiercely at Noah. "Could it be that the matter you are talking about has something to do with me?" Noah still looked straight into Aoko's eyes that were filled with determination and awe. After a while, he closed his eyes and turned his head away. "That fake priest brought me to meet someone." Although Noah's tone was calm and casual, Aoko did not dare to feel relaxed at all. Because, for Noah, the matter that was not important could be the biggest trouble for Aoko. Aoko and Yuju looked at each other, then turned their gaze to Noah. Noah finally sighed when he sensed the gazes of the two girls. "That's your sister." Before Yuju could react, Aoko's delicate body trembled as she looked at Noah. "Who did you say?" "Your sister." Noah glanced at Aoko Aozaki. "During this period of time, we have been racking our brains to deal with the opponent, the foreign magician who tricked the three of us, your sister Aoko Ching." In the living room, a burst of oppressive silence suddenly filled the air. Aoko's awe-inspiring face flashed with all kinds of emotions in an instant. After a while, it turned into complete calmness with a faint trace of resentment. I see. Now I understand everything. Not to mention Aoko, even Yuju seemed to have understood the reason behind this, and a hint of gloominess flashed through her eyes. In this way, the reason why the enchantment of Sanayo City can't detect the enemy is clear. Hearing the two girls' words, Noah more or less understood. Previously, the enchantment of Sanayo City could not detect the movement of intruders. It was not because the enemy this time had a special magic concealment technique like Noah, but because the enemy was very familiar with the enchantment of Sanayo City. As Aoko's sister, Aoko Ching should be very familiar with the enchantment of Sanayo City. In this way, to hide from the detection of the enchantment was a simple matter for Aoko Ching. I don't understand, why did your older sister become a foreign magician who came to compete for the barrier of Sano City? Noah asked Aoko with a question that had been bothering him for a long time. I think that your sister's ability is much higher than a trainee magician like you. In this case, why did it evolve into the current situation? In order to be able to reach the origin, magicians would spend their lifetime to turn their research results into magic engraving and leave it to their descendants, so that their descendants could inherit their research and find the path to the origin. In a magic family, there was only one magic engraving. It was the real treasure passed down from generation to generation in this magic family. And since Aoko Ching was Aoko Chang's sister, it proved that she was also a magician from the Aoko family. As a result, why wasn't Aochi Aoko the more capable one who inherited the magic seal and became the successor of the Aochi family? Instead, why was it Aochi Aoko who inherited the magic seal and became an apprentice magician who had only studied magic for less than 2 years? Do you think that the Aoko family is the same as other magic families? Aoko naturally understood why Noah had such a question and was speechless. The Aoko family is different from other magic families. Hearing this, Noah's heart was moved. If there was a difference between the Aoko family and other magic families, then Noah could only think of one thing. Magic. That's right. Aoko let out a rare bitter laugh. Unlike other magicians who would sacrifice their entire lives in order to reach the origin, the Aozaki family already possesses magic and has already reached the origin. There is no need for the Aozaki family to risk their lives in order to reach the origin. The Aozaki family only needs to do one thing. Aoko raised her hand and rolled up her sleeves, exposing the tattoo on her arm. Inheriting magic is the foundation of the Aoko family. The ultimate goal of a magician was to reach the origin. And magic was the ultimate way to reach the origin. Whether it was to create magic to reach the origin, or to obtain magic after reaching the origin, as long as one had magic, it was equivalent to grasping the path to the origin. Therefore, the Aoko family who had magic was no longer a magic family who left behind research topics for their descendants to study in order to reach the origin. The Aoko family's magic engraving contained magic. As long as one could use magic, then anyone could reach the origin. For the Aoko family, magic was the foundation. Because the Aoko family already had the means to reach the origin. Although it's embarrassing, I'll say it clearly. Aoko's face was tense. I'm afraid that my sister's goal is not the spiritual vein in Sano City, but the magic in my hands. Chapter 333. It was believed that no matter who it was, as long as it was a magician whose goal was to reach the origin, it would be impossible for them to reject magic that could reach the origin. If it wasn't for the fact that the magic mark could only be used on direct descendants, then for the sake of magic, the Aozaki family would have already been trampled to the ground by countless magicians in the magic world who had gone mad in order to reach the origin. It was also because of this that even though she was only a half-baked magician, Aozaki Aoko was still able to live a good life in Sano City. Unfortunately, the enemy this time wasn't an unorthodox magician, but Aozaki Aoko's biological sister Aozaki Orange. As a direct descendant of the Aozaki family, as long as Aozaki Aoko's magic mark was stolen, Aozaki Orange could still inherit the Aozaki family and obtain magic. Therefore, for Aozaki Aoko, no matter how she looked at it, Aozaki Orange was the worst enemy, without exception. Actually, my sister is the original successor of the Aozaki family. In the living room, Aozaki Aoko, who was sitting on the sofa, said these words in an emotionless tone. From the moment my sister was born, she was raised by my grandfather with the goal of inheriting magic as her goal. Since she was a child, she grew up in the form of a magic egg, in order to inherit the magic of the Aozaki family one day. My sister's talent for magic is very amazing. Compared to my sister, I only started to receive training as a magician at the age of 15. After nearly 2 years, I was still an apprentice magician. I can't compare to her. Aozaki Aoko said this, but her expression was still as firm as ever. It's just that the Aozaki family's magic doesn't require any talent for magic. Even if you perform well in magic, if you can't adapt to magic, then it's useless. My sister didn't understand this at all, so she excessively responded to my grandfather's request and showed off her amazing talent for magic. In the end, she was abandoned by my grandfather. At this point, Aozaki Aoko stopped her explanation, her eyes fluctuating with emotions that outsiders couldn't understand. Was it sympathy and pity for her sister's final fate? Or was it anger for her grandfather's ruthless abandonment of her sister? No one knew about this, not even Noah and Yuju, who were with Aozaki Aoko all the time. However, according to Aoko's explanation, Noah understood the relationship between Aoko Aoko and Aoko Aoko. Aozaki Orange's talent in magic was amazing, but no matter how good her talent in magic was, it had nothing to do with the Aozaki family. After all, the purpose of a magician's research was to reach the origin, while the Aozaki family already possessed magic that could reach the origin, so there was no need for them to research any more magic, as long as they could inherit the magic. Therefore, no matter how outstanding or even monstrous Aochi Orange's magic talent was, if she only had magic, she would never be able to enter her grandfather's eyes. In the end, it seemed that Aoko Aozaki was more suitable for the purpose of inheriting magic. As a result, Aozaki Aoko was abandoned by the previous Aozaki family's magic envoy, while Aozaki Aoko inherited the Aozaki family's magic and became the manager of Sano City's spirit vein. And now, Aozaki Orange had returned. Sister didn't come back for revenge, nor did she come back to teach her grandfather a lesson for abandoning her a lesson, nor did she come back to take back what once belonged to her. Aozaki Aoko asserted. Sister only came here as a magician who has dedicated her life to magic, to seize the magic that can reach the origin. Hearing Aozaki Aoko's words, Noah and Yuju both became silent. Because they both understood that Aozaki Aoko's words were probably the most correct. This was the so-called magician. They didn't have the moral standards of a human, nor did they have self-restraint. As long as they could reach the origin, they would try any method, use any means to obtain it. Compared to the ultimate goal of a magician's life, hatred, ethics, and all human emotions had to be put behind. This was the ideal requirement of a magician. Noah didn't know how many magicians in this world could reach this ideal state that he disdained, but in Aozaki Aoko's eyes, Aozaki Orange was definitely that kind of existence. I should have guessed it was that idiot sister. Aozaki Aoko said while gnashing her teeth. Whether it was that doll that looked like me last time or seizing Sano City's spiritual vein, they were all just tricks that idiot sister used to annoy me. She is such a capricious person. Sorry, I can't agree with your point of view this time. Noah spread his hands. That doll might have been used to annoy you, but your sister most likely wanted to weaken you and Yuju's strength by attacking Sano City's barrier. After all, you and Yuju can both obtain the support of Sano City's spiritual vein. If this path was cut off, she would have more confidence in seizing the magic on your body. If she wanted to have more confidence in seizing the magic on my body, then why didn't she make a move on me 2 years ago when I inherited the magic? At that time, she would have been 100% confident, right? Aozaki Aoko retorted, her tone full of anger. My sister is such a person. Compared to the process, she cares more about the results. Even if the results are not the same, as long as she can make me angry, she will do anything to achieve her goal. Are all magicians such awkward people? Noah couldn't help but say this. Aozaki Aoko rolled her eyes in response. Don't compare me to Yuju. Yuju is the one who is really awkward. No matter what Orange's motive was for attacking Sano City's barrier, it is certain that she is an enemy. There is no need to speculate about her motives and thoughts. Yuju stopped Noah and Aozaki Aoko from speculating. Her tone was reproachful for Aozaki Aoko's words. She then looked at Noah. Why did Orange ask you to go out? She asked a few questions. Noah frowned and said thoughtfully. But I feel that Aozaki's sister only cares about the last question. Originally, Noah thought that Aozaki Aoko wanted to test him through the conversation to get a clue about his identity and the reason for the mutation of Bio the Golden Wolf. But if Aozaki Aoko was really like what she said, only caring about the results and not the value of the process, then Aozaki Aoko wouldn't care about Noah's identity and the reason for the mutation of Bio the Golden Wolf that had nothing to do with magic. Therefore, Noah felt that Aozaki only cared about one question. Thinking of this, Noah couldn't help but laugh. He glanced at Aozaki Aoko who was sitting beside him. I feel that your sister only cares about whether I belong to you or not. Ha! Aozaki Aoko was stunned. Even Yuju was stunned. Your sister seems to be very interested in me. Noah shrugged and said helplessly. Especially after knowing that I kissed you. She seems to think that I have a special relationship with you and that I belong to you. What? Aozaki Aoko exclaimed. She was so embarrassed that she became angry. Why did you tell her that? Noah looked at Aozaki Aoko strangely. Is that something that can't be said? Isn't that a given? Aozaki Aoko was angry. Who would tell that kind of thing to others? I'm more concerned about Aozaki Aoko's reaction. Noah ignored Aozaki Aoko's anger and looked at Yuju in confusion. I feel that Aozaki Aoko treated me as a dispensable existence until she found out that I kissed her sister. What's the reason? Yuju stared at Noah and said in a displeased tone. Because Aoko treats you as her belonging. That girl has liked to steal my things since she was young. Aozaki Aoko said with hatred. She's so annoying. In other words, your sister asked me if I belong to you because if the answer was yes, she would want to steal me. Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She's really an awkward girl. Aozaki Aoko and Yuju looked at Noah with displeasure. They seemed to be in a bad mood. Of course, only Aozaki Aoko and Yuju knew why they were in a bad mood. Noah was in a good mood. Very well, I'll tell her who's the main character of this battle. Chapter 334. Kacha. The door on the east side of the hall on the first floor that led to the living room was gently opened. Soft moonlight shone down from the glass skylight at the top, bathing Noah as he walked into the cold hall. Raising his head, Noah looked at the bright moon hanging high in the clear night sky under the soft moonlight from outside the glass skylight, and sighed. Although he seemed calm and strong when he was discussing the matter of Aoko and Yuju in the living room, only Noah knew that after knowing about the matter of Aoko, his mood became quite irritable. The reason for his irritation was very simple. It was because of the battle between the two sisters, Aoko Aoko and Aoko Aoko. From Noah's point of view, he really couldn't understand why Aozaki Aoko and Aozaki Aoko, who were biological sisters, would fight each other. Was it because someone had committed a heinous crime? Was it because someone had done something wrong? Was it because someone had forced them? Was it because someone had threatened them? None of them. It was all of their own accord. As if it was natural, Aoko Aoko had attacked the barrier of Sano City, and also issued a challenge to her own sister. As if it was only natural, Aoko Aoko was not surprised that her own sister would make a move against her. She was even ready to fight. Why could the two sisters take all of this for granted? This was the reason why Noah could not understand. Of course, from an objective point of view, the battle between Aoko Aoko and Aoko Aoko seemed to be natural. There was only one magic in the Aoko family. In order to obtain this one inheritance, Aoko Aoko and Aoko Aoko had to fight each other. In this world, it was a tragedy for a magician family to have two descendants in the same generation. If one was talented and the other was incompetent, it would be fine, but if both sides were very talented, then it would be troublesome. Because there was only one magic engraving. Around the magic engraving, the descendants of the same generation in the same magic family would fight and kill each other, leaving only one to inherit the research topic left by the ancestors. This was not a rare example in the entire magic world. From the point of view of other magicians, the battle between Aoko Aoko and Aoko Aoko was really natural, and there was nothing strange about it. If one day, Noah's grandfather, Makarov, told Noah that he had a powerful magic that could rule the world, but only one of the brothers, Noah and Laxus, could inherit it, then they would have to fight to leave only one person. Then, with Laxus's twisted character, he would not hesitate to agree. However, if Mira and Lisanna were to face the same situation, Mira would give up the chance without hesitation and give it to Lisanna, and Lisanna would give it to Mira as well. She would never fight her family for power. Aoko 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 and Aoko Aoko were sisters. Since the two of them had accepted the result of this battle as a matter of course, could it be that the two of them also had twisted personalities? Probably not. Or did these two sisters family? Noah didn't know. But to Noah, as a family member, it was too stupid to fight for so-called magic. Noah could kill anyone for the sake of his family in fairy tale, but he would never kill his family in fairy tale. No matter which world's fairy tale it was, Noah had always had a reason to fight with others for his family, but there was no possibility of him fighting with his family for that necessary reason. This was Noah. He believed that almost all the members of fairy tale in the two worlds that Noah was in would be the same as Noah. Therefore, from Noah's point of view, no matter what the reason was, the killing between family members was inexplicable. Even if there was a reason, 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 even if there was a reason in his heart, even if there was a reason, 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 even if there was a reason infamily, wasn't the most important thing. Sigh. The anxious Noah could only sigh in the end. At this time, a familiar voice sounded behind Noah. It's not like you to hide here and sigh. After saying this, Aoko Aoko, who was wearing casual clothes, came out from the living room and came to Noah's side. She raised her head and, like Noah, looked at the night sky outside the glass skylight. Her voice seemed to come from a distant place and drilled into Noah's ears. Don't be like Jing Shikuin, or I will look down on you. You think too much. Noah responded with a calm face. I'm just homesick. Aoko was silent. She didn't know if it was because she sensed Noah's thoughts from Noah's words, or because she was also homesick and even thought of her sister who was about to fight. Aoko said. It's not like you. It's just that you don't know, I'm a good man who really loves his family. Noah retracted his gaze from outside the glass skylight and glanced sideways at Aoko's beautiful face under the moonlight. He opened his mouth and said, Don't worry, Aoko. Don't you miss your family? I'm not a child, I won't have such fragile thoughts. Aoko replied without hesitation. It's good to remember the past, but if you keep remembering it, you will become cowardly. I won't allow myself to become too cowardly. If you're too tense, be careful not to break yourself. Noah said with admiration and mockery. Or, for you, family is the representation of cowardice. It should be the opposite, right? Aoko didn't know if she was touched by Noah's words, but her pale eyes flickered, and she couldn't help but speak. Because I can only store all the cowardice in my heart at home, so when I'm outside, I can't think about it. You're so strong. Noah smiled bitterly. No wonder you can abandon everything in the past and step into a nightmarish world. Before the age of 15, Aoko was just an ordinary person who grew up. Just like the other students in the school, Aoko was originally just an ordinary person. The only difference was that she had an extraordinary family with an extraordinary elder sister and grandfather. However, at the age of 15, Aoko resolutely accepted the inheritance of the Aoko family. She abandoned her past life, abandoned her past dreams, abandoned her past values, and even abandoned her past identity as a human. She was born as an inhuman being with contradictions. From the perspective of an ordinary person, the path of the magician was filled with blood and slaughter. It was a path that was filled with pain. No matter who it was, when faced with such a monstrous world, their only thought was to escape. But Aoko endured it all. At that time, she was still an ordinary person. Wasn't that enough for Noah to praise her for being strong? I just don't allow myself to escape. Aoko's strong and powerful voice echoed in the surroundings. Since it's an unavoidable fate, then I'll bear it. Before the day comes when I can't stand it and collapse, I'll walk through it beautifully. With that, Aoko turned around and looked directly at Noah with strong emotions in her eyes, as if she wanted to see through Noah's heart. What about you? If it were you, what would you choose? Would you escape? Me? Noah smiled, and his smile was unusually strong. I don't care about *T fate. Noah turned his back, and his voice echoed throughout the manor. If the so-called fate is to fight with family, friends, and lovers, then I'll shatter this fate, break this fate, and make it so afraid that it will never be able to get close to me. With that, Noah lifted his feet and walked up to the second floor. Aoko looked at Noah's gradually disappearing back and did not speak for a long time. After a long time, she whispered softly. You're so gentle. Whether it was the strong person who stayed in place or the gentle person who left, neither of them noticed. In the corridor of the living room, an awkward person was standing in the shadows, quietly listening to the conversation between the two people living together. Chapter 335. The next morning, I'm full. After enjoying a peaceful breakfast in the sunroom, Shinji Kusakajiro had a satisfied expression on his face as he cleaned up all the tableware that belonged to him. Don't you want to eat more? Noah, who was sitting opposite Shinji Kusakajiro, leisurely gnawed on a piece of bread as he glanced at Shinji Kusakajiro. Aochi and Yuju are not here, so this time no one will think that you are an eyesore. Also, there's still a long time before school starts. You don't have to rush, right? It's okay, I'm full. Shinji Kusakajiro showed a sincere smile, which was an undisguised emotion that ordinary people couldn't show. I still have a newspaper delivery job, so I have to go out first. After that, Shinji Kusakajiro looked at Noah in confusion. Ouchie and Miss Kanoji, why are they so late today? Hearing this, Noah shrugged and didn't immediately answer. Normally, unless they had stayed up late the night before to do some work, Ayoko and Yuzu would have already woken up. But today, Ouchie and Yuzu didn't come to the sunroom at a fixed time. Noah knew that Ouchie and Yuzu didn't stay up late to do any work last night, but went to bed early. And this morning, Noah vaguely heard a strange sound in the mansion before he got up. Therefore, Noah guessed that Ayoko Aozaki and Yuzu were not still sleeping in bed, but had woken up early in the morning. As for why they woke up so early, the reason was easy to guess. Ouchie and Yuzu probably knew that their opponent was Ouchie Ching, so they more or less had their own ideas, so they woke up early in the morning. At this time, Ouchie and Yuzu should be doing something to deal with Ouchie Ching. The two probably finished their breakfast early, so it was useless to worry. Thinking of this, Noah said to Shinji Kusakajiro. A lot of things will happen recently, Shinji. If you have nothing to do, come back early, don't wander outside, okay? Shizuka Kusanagi tilted his head with a puzzled expression before nodding. Although I don't know what happened, I'll come back as soon as I'm done. That's fine. Noah spread his hands and continued to eat his bread. Seeing that Noah had no intention of answering his previous question, Shizuchi Kusanagi tactfully put away the tableware in front of him and stood up. Are you still going to ask for leave from Ouchie today? I guess he won't be able to go to school for a while. Noah waved at Shizuka Kusakajiro. Anyway, that perfectionist Ouchie must have asked for leave in advance, and she must have dragged me along without my consent. I'll just stay in the mansion today. Then I'll go out first. Shizuka Kusanagi turned around and left the sunroom without any hesitation. Looking at the back of Shizuchi Kusanagi, Noah fell into deep thought. Looks like Jingshi isn't Ouchie Orange's backup plan. Now, Sanayo City's barrier only had one fulcrum left. If this fulcrum was taken, Sanayo City's ley line would officially be declared ownerless, and Ouchie Aoko and Yuzu would leave with nothing. However, Ouchie Orange wouldn't be stupid enough to recklessly make a move on the only remaining fulcrum. If Shizuchi Kusanagi was really one of Ouchie Orange's people, in order to let the situation develop and not continue to be in a stalemate, Ouchie Orange would definitely let Shizuchi Kusanagi do everything possible in the enemy's base camp. However, until now, Shizuchi Kusanagi still hadn't made any moves, and Yuzu's familiar who was in charge of monitoring Shizuchi Kusanagi also didn't report anything strange, so the suspicion of Shizuchi Kusanagi being an accomplice of the enemy was greatly reduced. No matter what, this time the enemy isn't easy to deal with is a fact. Noah couldn't help but recall the last time he fought with Golden Wolf Bio, and couldn't help but sigh. I have to make some preparations. After saying that, Noah sped up his eating speed. After finishing his breakfast, Noah directly returned to his room, closed the door tightly, took off his shoes, sat on his bed, and pressed his hand on his chest. Blazing Fong. The incantation to summon the soul clearly echoed. Wang. A pure white geometric pattern suddenly emerged from Noah's chest. Pang. A deep blue flame rose from the star pattern, and the flame instantly illuminated Noah's surroundings, as if a gust of wind was swirling. Not long after, two pitch-black weapons with a pure white pattern emerged from the blue flame and fell down. Knight's sword and revolver. After about a month or so, the two blaze fangs that had always existed in Noah's soul were finally summoned once again. Looking at the two blaze that belonged to him, Noah couldn't help but smile. He placed the knight's sword and revolver in front of him, and after hesitating for a moment, he picked up his knight's sword. Wang. The knight's sword that was raised in front of Noah seemed to greet Noah. Its whole body trembled, and the pure white pattern on the pitch-black sword flashed with a cold luster. Looking at his beloved sword in front of him, Noah's mind was filled with exquisite runes. That was all the rune magic that Noah had learned up until now. Suddenly, one by one, the runes flashed in Noah's mind like a digital program on a sophisticated computer screen, causing Noah's dark eyes to shine. In the next moment, Noah raised one of his hands and extended a finger. The magic in his body was released from the limited seal, and flowed through Noah's body, and finally gathered at Noah's finger. Immediately, Noah pointed his finger at the knight's sword, and began to draw a flickering rune. Noah was strengthening his blaze. In Norse legends, rune was originally engraved on tools and props, and was used for divination or to pray for peace. Later, people began to engrave rune on their own weapons, borrowing the power of rune to strengthen their weapons, and also strengthen their own fighting power, and used it on the battlefield. And in this world, magicians who were proficient in rune would often engrave rune on their magic attire to strengthen their magic attire. In the magic association, some magicians who were proficient in fighting would even engrave rune on their own bodies, making it an existence similar to a weapon. Noah was just doing the same thing. In the last confrontation, the golden wolf Beo and Noah, who had released all of their power and used the full power of crush, were evenly matched. From this, it could be seen that the golden wolf Beo's strength was not inferior to Noah's. However, in the last battle, Noah did not use blaze. In order to meet the inevitable battle, Noah needed to make some preparations. Strengthening a blaze was equivalent to strengthening Noah's fighting power. Therefore, this was absolutely necessary. In this situation, first, Noah engraved a whole row of runes on the body of the knight's sword. It was the hardening rune. In the magic association, there was no lack of good fighters who used rune magic as a fighting method. And the hardening rune was definitely the most suitable rune for strengthening weapons, and the most suitable rune for close combat. It could make a weapon harder and harder to destroy, and it could also add strength to the attack. This was not difficult to understand. If a piece of cloth was made as hard as steel, then, when this cloth was smashed to the ground, it would also create a hole. The same principle. Adding the hardening rune on a weapon would not only make the weapon harder, but also make the weapon heavier. Strength and defense were not neglected, making hardening one of the most commonly used runes in close combat. After engraving a whole row of hardening runes on the knight's sword, Noah engraved another 2 rows of runes on the body of the sword. Those were the sharpness and acceleration runes. Chapter 336. The difference between enhancement magic and rune magic was that one was essence and the other was knowledge. If a magician was constantly improving his strengthening magic trick, then the degree of enhancement he could get when using strengthening magic trick would increase accordingly. For example, if a magician used enhancement magic to strengthen his fist, then as the magician improved his enhancement magic, the strength of the strengthened fist would also increase accordingly. But rune magic was different. Compared to the enhanced magic that could become stronger as the user progressed, the improvement of the rune magic was mainly reflected in the 2 aspects of whether the user could use it faster and whether the user could master more runes. If a magician's rune magic improved, then the magician's speed of writing runes would also increase, and the number of runes he could grasp would also increase. Therefore, if there was only one rune, then its effect was actually very limited. For example, the improvement of enhancement magic allowed the original 1 power to continuously increase until it reached 2, 3, 4, and even 10. On the other hand, there was a limit to the power of a single rune in the rune magic. If it was 1, then no matter how high or how fast the user's magic skills improved, the power of the rune would still be 1. However, rune magic could be stacked. For example, hardening rune a single rune could only display the power of 1. If 10 of these runes were engraved, then even if the power of hardening did not reach 10, it could still reach 5. Therefore, Noah engraved hardening, sharpening, and acceleration runes on the knight's sword in 3 rows that covered the entire blade. These 3 rows of runes could allow Noah's knight's sword to display its full power. Among them, the hardening rune had the greatest effect. After all, the hardening runes could not only make the knight's sword heavier, but also indirectly increase its attack power. This row of hardening runes could also make Noah's knight's sword extremely sturdy. It must be known that the blaze was the soul itself. If the blaze was destroyed, it would be equivalent to the soul being shattered once. The owner of the blaze would suffer an unimaginable blow because of this. At the very least, they would be unconscious for an entire day before waking up. Noah's blaze was rather special. It was born from a weapon that originally existed and became a part of his soul. If the blaze was destroyed, then only a part of Noah's soul would be destroyed, but it would still cause a certain amount of mental damage. Now that there was a whole row of hardening, plus the original strength of the knight's sword, and Noah's magic buff, it was estimated that even if the golden wolf BO was 10 times or even 100 times stronger, he would not be able to cause a single crack on the knight's sword. As for the sharpening rune, its effect was to make Noah's knight's sword even sharper. It was believed that now, Noah's knight's sword would not be able to cut through anything. As for the haste rune, it did not increase Noah's speed, but increased the speed at which Noah swung his sword. With this whole row of haste runes, Noah's swinging sword speed would probably reach an extremely frightening level. After carving these 3 rows of runes, Noah carved the last rune on the hilt of the knight's sword, forever firm. All the runes carved on the knight's sword were like miniature suns, emitting a blinding light that immediately disappeared into the knight's sword. Wang wang. The knight's sword that was emitting a blinding light trembled. After a long time, it gradually dimmed and stopped. In the next second, the knight's sword that was imprinted in Noah's eyes had already changed. The runes that were originally flickering like fireflies on the body of the knight's sword had all disappeared. In their place, the knight's sword had the same runes engraved on it. It was as if the runes were originally engraved on the knight's sword. They were surrounded by the rippling pure white lines on the sword, constantly displaying their effects. This was the forever firm rune. Holding the knight's sword that was engraved with runes on the sword body and hilt, Noah felt the power on it. His tense face finally relaxed. The pitch-black knight's sword turned into a blue flame, disappeared, and returned to Noah's body. After this experience, the time that Noah needed to strengthen the revolver was greatly reduced. On the body of the revolver, Noah also engraved the hardening rune, which made the revolver even harder. He also engraved the acceleration rune, which greatly increased the speed of the revolver in all aspects. However, the revolver did not need the sharpness rune. Thus, Noah engraved a new row of runes on the revolver, vitality. This was a very interesting rune. It was similar to the magic enhancement rune. When used on the human body, it could increase the endurance and physical strength of the person. When used on a light bulb, it could make the light bulb brighter. It was similar to the magic enhancement rune. With the vitality rune, the revolver's firepower would become more intense. If the revolver's true power was released, the firepower would be even more intense. In this way, if Noah used the knight's sword and the revolver, his strength would definitely increase by a level. In addition, with the protection of Avalon, Noah did not need to be afraid of the golden wolf BO. The world fragment inside the golden wolf BO's body was something that Noah was determined to obtain. Bang! The moment Noah walked out of his room, an astonishing loud noise and a burst of dazzling phosphorescent light suddenly exploded without warning, startling Noah. What happened? Noah quickly went to the window in the corridor, opened the window, and looked outside. He saw that in the manor's courtyard, a burst of thick smoke rose up as if there was a fire somewhere. In front of the thick smoke, Aoko was standing there with one hand raised, pointing in the direction of the rising smoke. On her raised hand, the flickering light from the magic engraving was still fluctuating. Obviously, this was Aoko's doing. Not far from the courtyard, Yuju was also there. Quietly looking at the rising smoke in front of Aoko, Yuju could faintly feel that there seemed to be a hole in the ground inside, which made Yuju emit a sense of unhappiness. Even Noah, who was upstairs, could feel it. What the hell are these two girls doing? Noah raised his eyebrows, closed the window again, and walked downstairs. When Noah arrived at the courtyard, the thick smoke had already dissipated, and as expected, there was a hole left in the ground. Aoko and Yuju were facing each other, one face full of awkwardness, the other face was still emotionless, but her eyes were surging with obvious dissatisfaction. Noah, who opened the door, was surprised. What are you doing? Hearing Noah's voice, Aoko and Yuju turned their heads at the same time and looked at him. As you can see, the awkwardness on Aoko's face disappeared, and she casually replied while flicking her waist-length hair. I'm practicing. Practicing. Noah was startled at first, then immediately understood. You also know how to cram at the last minute. Aoko looked like she wanted to refute, but no words came out. She could only snort and turn her head. The battle with Aoko could come at any time. Aoko didn't say it on the surface, but in her heart, she was more or less nervous. It was not strange that she wanted to seize the time to improve her strength. I should have known that Aoko's talent in destruction is unparalleled. Yuju took a deep breath and glanced at Aoko. Agreeing to let her practice in the courtyard was the most unwise decision I made. Although Yuju's most treasured place was the mansion, this courtyard was obviously in the category of treasures. After being wantonly destroyed by Aoko, Yuju didn't directly attack, which was something to be happy about. After all this time, you got up early in the morning to practice. Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, Aoko and Yuju both fell silent. Chapter 337. As magicians, both Aoko and Yuju were aware of this path that was destined to be full of blood and slaughter. Aoko, who had only 2 years of experience as a magician, would be fine. If one day she had to die in someone's hands, she would definitely not feel any regret. This was because when she embarked on the path of a magician, she was prepared to die at any time. Even Aoko was like this, let alone the pure-blooded witch who was destined to embark on the path of a magician from birth. Kanoji Yuju was even more so. To be honest, facing an invincible opponent who could kill them at any time, Aoko and Yuju did not feel strange at all, nor did they feel afraid. If it was in the past, knowing that their opponent this time was Aozaki Orange and that she had a fantasy breed under her command, Aozaki and Yuju wouldn't have rushed over anxiously to do something so meaningless as to increase their chances of winning. The two girls were more likely to relax leisurely as if they had seen through life and death, waiting for the day of the final battle to arrive. But this time, both Aoko and Yuzu woke up early in the morning and did something that they thought was meaningless in the past. This wasn't because Aoko and Yuzu were nervous or afraid. Instead, it was because the two of them had the strange thought of not wanting to die, that was extremely normal for ordinary people, but extremely strange for magicians. Why was this happening? Aoko and Yuzu could not explain it clearly. However, the two girls knew that it was all because of the influence of the unfathomable man who lived with them. It was only because this idea came to Noah last night after he finished talking with Aoko Aozaki. Was it not because of Noah's influence? Even Aoko and Yuju did not believe it. Haven't you thought that you will die? Aoko couldn't help but say this to Noah. Her pale eyes stared at Noah with a burning gaze. Don't forget, your opponent is a fantasy breed. You don't know what kind of ability it has, so Avalon might not be able to protect you. Hearing this, Noah was stunned. However, when he saw the strange emotions in Aoko's eyes, he looked into her eyes and said unhurriedly, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Even though I have Avalon, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'll be safe with it. Then aren't you afraid? Aoko Aozaki asked aggressively. Every time you fight with an enemy, aren't you afraid that you will lose, or die? Can I not fight because I am afraid of losing, or dying? Noah asked in return. That's not what you'd think. I don't think so. I am just curious why you don't think so. Aoko stared at Noah. You said that Cheng's familiar had something you wanted, and that you would fight for it even if you had to die, didn't you? Is this the reason for you to fight? It is impossible for Orange and me to compromise. We have to fight. Yuju is the manager of the spirit vein in Sano City, so she has a reason to fight. Aoko's voice was surprisingly cold. If the thing on Orange's familiar isn't valuable enough for you to risk your life to obtain, then you should withdraw from this battle. As Aoko's words spread, the atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Yuju frowned slightly, but did not say anything. Even though she knew that if Noah withdrew, she would definitely die without any means to deal with a fantasy breed, but Yuju did not have any objections to Aoko's suggestion. Seeing Aoko and Yuju's behavior, it was impossible for Noah not to be angry. The reason for fighting? Even if it wasn't for the world fragment, just by the fact that the three of them lived under the same roof for a month or so, and the fact that they fought side by side for the past month, as companions, how could Noah watch Aoko and Yuju die in vain? Noah could even save someone like Shizuka Kusajikuro, whom he had only seen 2 or 3 times, for the sake of feeling refreshed. He was even willing to fight against the Magic Association. Now, for the sake of Aoko Aochi and Yuju, could Noah not fight against the existence at the top of the fantasy breed? Noah had said that he would only do what he liked. If Aoko Aozaki and Yuazu were people like Wenbin Yongli that he hated, Noah would definitely not be so free as to be a saint. However, after a month of living together, Noah still had some feelings for Aoko and Yuju. As the reason for fighting, this was enough. Of course, if he said this reason, Aoko and Yuju, who were not very emotional, would definitely not agree. However, what Noah needed was not approval. What's the reason? Noah suddenly asked. What's the reason for persuading me to withdraw from the battle? Aoko Aozaki fell silent. At this time, Yuju answered Noah's question. Don't you still have a family? Noah suddenly realized. So that's why. Aoko and Yuju persuaded Noah to withdraw from the battle because Noah's words last night had touched the 2 girls. Aoko Aozaki and Yuju were both prepared to die for this the moment they stepped onto the path of magicians. Aoko's family didn't object to Aoko's choice, so they must have been prepared for it, right? Needless to say, Yuju's parents had already passed away, so no one would worry about her. However, Noah was different. If Noah died, there would be a lot of people crying for Noah. Because Noah was so gentle and resolute when he mentioned family last night, Aoko and Yuju both understood that Noah was different from them, and had a very important bond. To put it simply, both Aoko and Yuju were soft-hearted. Alas! Noah sighed, closed his eyes, and after a while, opened his eyes. This is really not like you. Aoko and Yuju were stunned at the same time. I said, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'm absolutely safe, but just like Aoko said, I didn't think that I would lose, or die. Noah said calmly. If you say that I don't have enough reasons to fight, then I have a lot of reasons to not lose, and not to die. Then. Aoko seemed to want to say something, but she was interrupted by Noah. However, this is definitely not an excuse to avoid the battle. Noah looked straight at Aoko Aozaki. I believe that if it were you, you would make the same decision as me, because you will never allow yourself to escape. Aoko was speechless. Your sister once asked me if I was your possession. Noah suddenly laughed. At that time, I told her that even if I was, it was because you were my possession. Who's your property? Aoko yelled, but Noah ignored her. If you really want a reasonable reason to fight, then I'll tell you now. Noah glanced at Aoko Aoki, then glanced at Yuju, and then smiled. I don't mind treating you as my possession and then fighting for you. Whether it was Aoko or Yuju, they were both people with strong self-esteem. If it was any other time, if anyone declared that they were his possession in front of these two girls, that person would definitely die a horrible death. But this time, Aoko and Yuju looked at Noah in a daze, and did not respond for a long time. Looking into Noah's dark and deep eyes, Yuju lowered her head. After a while, she opened her red lips. This morning, there was a magical reaction at the position of the last fulcrum. Noah's pupils contracted. That's a letter of challenge from Ching, Yuju said in an emotionless voice. Ching is even more impatient than we thought. Is that why you suddenly asked such a question at this time? Noah smiled bitterly and raised his head. When? Tonight. Aoko's voice became strong and firm again, full of determination. Tonight, it's the final battle. With this sentence as the conclusion, the man and the two girls in the courtyard fell into silence at the same time. They did not speak anymore, and just looked at the bright sky above their heads, silently counting down. With Noah's extraordinary memory and comprehension, he had already memorized all the Bruni's magic tricks in Yuju's library. The only thing he lacked was practice. Of course, this included the phrase, forgetful like a nun. Shizuchi Kusujiro was originally suspected of being Aochi Cheng's accomplice, so he was arranged by Noah, Aoko Aochi, and Yuju to stay in the manor house, in the form of surveillance. As long as there was a winner tonight, then, it didn't matter if Shizuchi Kusujiro was Aochi Cheng's accomplice or not. If Aoko Aochi and Yuju came back alive, then there was no reason for him to stay. Therefore, once tonight's victory was decided, Shizuchi Kusujiro's memory of magic would be erased, and he would return to the life of an ordinary person. Of course, Shizuchi Kusujiro was still suspected of not being Aochi Cheng's accomplice. In order to prevent Shizuchi Kusujiro from doing anything if he was really Aochi Cheng's accomplice, Aoko Aochi and Yuju couldn't let Shizuchi Kusujiro wander around at this important time of the final battle. Shizuchi, tonight you stay in your room. Noah sighed slightly. I will engrave a imprisonment rune in your room. That rune will last until morning. Noah turned his head and looked at Shizuchi Kusujiro. If we can come back before tomorrow morning, I will let you out and erase your memory. If we can't come back, then you can do whatever you want. Except for your room, you are not allowed to go anywhere else. Yuju said coldly to Shizuchi Kusujiro. Even if the imprisonment magic disappears tomorrow morning, if you wander around my house, there are many ways to destroy you. This time, no matter how stupid Shizuchi Kusujiro was, he knew that today was the last day he could stay here. Shizuchi Kusujiro had only lived here for less than 2 weeks, so naturally, he didn't have any feelings for this place. Every day, because Aoko Aochi and Yuju didn't like him, he didn't communicate with anyone except for Noah. Therefore, knowing that he was about to be allowed to leave the mansion, Shizuchi Kusujiro nodded obediently without any joy or sadness. I understand. I will ask for leave from work at night, and I won't come out of my room until dawn. Even if I come out, I will go directly to my original place. Very good. Aoko Aochi nodded with satisfaction, and said to Shizuchi Kusajuro in a rare friendly manner. Then you go take a shower first. Okay. Shizuchi Kusajuro nodded quickly, turned around, and left the living room. Should I say, as expected of him? Noah touched his nose. If an ordinary person knows that their memory will be erased, they will have some resistance no matter how unwilling they are. But Shizuchi doesn't seem to care at all. As expected, this person is incompatible with ordinary people. He has no sense of self at all, even his sense of existence is extremely weak. Aoko Aochi said with pity and disgust. I hate this kind of person the most. I really don't get along with him. Anyway, Shizuchi's matter is arranged like this. Noah looked up and looked at Aoko Aochi and Yuju. I haven't asked you before, but do you have a chance of winning against Aochi? I can only rely on the magic recorded in the Aochi family's magic seal, and I don't know how to use magic. Aoko Aochi pouted unhappily. My sister knows the magic of the Aochi family very well. If I were to go against her, I only have a 10% chance of winning. 10%. Noah smiled. You only learned magic for 2 years, and you dare to say that you have a 10% chance of winning against my sister who has learned magic since young and has amazing talent. There is no such thing as absolute in a magic battle. Aoko Aochi's voice was emotionless, there was only determination. Even if there is no chance of winning, I will create a chance of winning. I won't admit defeat in front of that idiot of a sister so easily. What about Yuju? Noah looked at Yuju. How are you compared to Aochi? In fact, Yuju and Aochi had known each other for more than 10 years. Noah didn't know about this until just now. But it wasn't strange. Aochi Orange used to be active in Sano City as the heir of the Aochi family, and Yuju was a pure-blooded witch who had been studying magic in Sano City since she was a child. There was no doubt that the two of them had met when they were young. Speaking of which, Yuju was very similar to Aochi Orange. Both of them had started learning magic since they were young. One of them was the descendant of a magic user, while the other was a pure-blooded witch. Both of them had outstanding talent in magic. Coupled with their own unique traits, it was hard to say who was stronger. Cheng is the same as Qing Zi. Both of them won't admit defeat so easily. Since she's back, she must have prepared a trump card that she's confident of defeating us, Yuju said expressionlessly while holding the book. Originally, I didn't want to get involved in the Aozaki family's affairs, but since Orange chose to attack the barrier of Sanayo City, I have the obligation to eliminate her. No matter what, if I join forces with Aoko, we won't be weaker than Orange. As she spoke, Yuju stared at Noah. But if you lose, we're all finished. That's for sure. Hearing this, Noah smiled. He smiled so much that his eyes flashed with traces of cold light. You want to kill me? Let's see if that golden wolf can do it. The sky finally darkened. Gotcha! Opening the door of the mansion, Noah, Aochi, and Yuju walked out and looked in one direction. That was the direction of the last fulcrum. At this time, whether it was Noah, Aochi, or Yuju, they all chose to remain silent. They lifted their feet and silently walked out. Tonight was destined to be a long night. Chapter 339. Tonight, a thick layer of dark clouds covered the entire sky of Sanayo City, blocking all light sources. Compared to the past, Sanayo City's night was undoubtedly darker. It was as if they already knew that today would not be too ordinary, and there was a sense of tension everywhere. If it was a normal person, without the guidance of street lights or flashlights, they would definitely not be able to see the road at night. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was pitch black. However, such a night was no obstacle for Noah. When he was in the world of the Black Bullet, Noah had been strengthened many times by the virus of the protozoa. In these viruses, there was also the DNA of species with extremely strong night vision. With the strengthening of the DNA of these species with extremely strong night vision, no matter how dark the night was, it would not be an obstacle for Noah. Aoko Aozaki and Yuju seemed to have used magic to strengthen their 5 senses in advance. Their footsteps did not have the slightest intention of stopping as they braved the cold wind and walked on the dark mountain path. At this moment, Noah, Aoko Aozaki, and Yuju were on a mountain at the edge of Sanyo City. At the top of this mountain, there was the last fulcrum of Sanyo City's spirit vein barrier. Under Yuju's lead, Noah and Aoko Aozaki passed through many mountain paths, and after about half an hour, they arrived at the top of the mountain. Whoosh! The bone-piercing cold wind mercilessly blew through the somewhat empty mountain top. On the mountain top, surrounded by a forest, what appeared in front of Noah, Aoko Aozaki, and Yuju was a stone ground full of small holes and rocks. Roar! Almost at the same moment, Noah's group of 3 appeared in the open space, an unusually high-pitched, elegant, and violent roar that made one's heart palpitate resounded through the night sky. Aoko Aozaki and Yuju, who heard this roar, immediately stiffened and involuntarily trembled slightly. This was not fear. This was not fear. This was an instinct that every life form would show when they encountered a higher-level life form. Therefore, this was a tribute to the almost perfect life form, and also a sign that the body was telling its master that it was not a match. Only Noah seemed to have been provoked after hearing the resounding, elegant, and violent roar. A cold light flashed across his eyes. Wang! In an instant, all the power under the restricted state was released, filling Noah's entire body. This caused Noah's entire body to emit an extremely terrifying aura, silently enveloping all directions. That resounding, elegant, and violent roar came to an abrupt halt. Life forms would instinctively tremble when encountering higher life forms. Mysteries were useless in the face of higher mysteries. Even if this was the ironclad rule of this world, it was more fragile than anything to Noah. This was because Noah was an existence that truly transcended the world. Regardless of the mystery, Noah would not lose to any existence in terms of the level of life. Immediately, Noah took a step forward, as if protecting Aoko and Yuju behind him. His eyes swept across the stone ground in front of him like a torch. It's time to come out, right? The entire place returned to silence. Not long after, footsteps slowly sounded from the opposite side of the forest. There, a person and a beast slowly walked out, appearing in front of Noah's group. Aoko clenched her fists as she looked at the tall figure with the golden beast. Her pale eyes became unprecedentedly sharp. Orange. Long time no see, Aoko. Aoko, with her short reddish-brown hair swaying, crossed her arms and looked straight into Aoko's extremely sharp eyes. A slightly cold smile hung on her face. I haven't seen you for a few years. I thought you had some ability, but now it seems that you are worse than I thought. You've disappointed me, Aoko. You've never been satisfied with anything I've done since I was a child, right? Aoko responded with a little disdain. It's not strange. You're not the kind of person who would have expectations for others, or even for yourself. You're wrong this time, Aoko. Ouchie suddenly smiled, but there was no trace of a smile in her eyes. The wildness in her eyes even made Ouchie a little afraid. I have high expectations for you, for the Aoko family's miracle. These words made Aoko's expression sink slightly. So you're really here for magic. After all, it's something that I've been obsessed with for more than 10 years, and I've paid a lot of price to inherit. At this moment, Aoko's cold smile became somewhat complicated. That kind of thing, if I'm declared out without even seeing the real thing, you know how unwilling I will be, right? Unfortunately, you're still going to be disappointed. Aoko responded with a firm tone. You should be able to guess that I can't use magic, right? That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me. Ouchie Orange said those words without leaving a trace that would make anyone feel cold in their heart. Anyway, this is the last battle. Aoko, if you can use it, then use it. If you can't, then you won't be able to see the sun of Sano City tomorrow. After saying this, Ouchie Orange looked at Yuju and leisurely greeted her. We haven't seen each other for a long time, Yuju. I thought you would choose to stay out of this battle and not interfere. If it's only between you and Aoko, then I really don't want to interfere. Yuju raised her black eyes. But if you attack the barrier of Sano City, then I have to interfere. Aoko, you know how stubborn I am with my own things. In other words, my opponents tonight are a half-baked mage and a pure-blooded witch. Aoko revealed a joyful smile. If not, then it's not interesting. Roar. Perhaps the Golden Wolf Bio was impatient with Ouchie Orange's leisurely greeting the enemy before the battle, so he let out a low growl with a ferocious expression on his face. From the beginning to the end, Golden Wolf Bio's emerald eyes only stared at one person. That person was Noah, who had been silent all this time. Noah just stood there calmly and didn't even look at Golden Wolf Bio. The magic power in his body fluctuated bit by bit like the atmosphere, making Noah's whole body emit a pressure that made people's hearts tighten. Seeing Noah like this, Golden Wolf Bio seemed to be a little anxious. Because of the influence of the world fragment, Golden Wolf Bio had an abnormal obsession with Noah. However, Golden Wolf Bio, who only had the rationality of a wild beast, couldn't tell what this obsession was. This caused him to feel very anxious when he saw Noah. Golden Wolf Bio obviously didn't like this feeling of anxiety, so much so that it drew out the fierceness in Golden Wolf Bio's heart. It made Golden Wolf Bio want to tear Noah into pieces immediately to expel this feeling of anxiety. This was also the reason why the Golden Wolf Bio had become so violent around Ouchie Orange during this period of time. TSK Aoko seemed to have also noticed Golden Wolf Bio's abnormal behavior and clenched her teeth. That's why I hate wild dogs that can't communicate. Compared to Aozaki Orange, Aozaki Aoko and Yuju paid close attention to Bio's every move. Aoko wasn't the kind of person who cherished things. She even casually squandered an expensive doll. However, Aoko and Yuju couldn't ignore Golden Wolf Bio's identity as a fantasy breed. For magicians who studied mysteries and miracles, Golden Wolf Bio was definitely an existence worthy of respect and admiration. Therefore, Noah was the only one who maintained his initial calmness among the crowd. Can we start now? You can't wait. Aoko licked the corner of her mouth flirtatiously. If that's the case, then there's no need to waste time. After saying that, Aoko sneered. Bio, you can do whatever you want today. I won't stop you. As soon as she finished speaking. Duh. Almost in the blink of an eye, the sound of something falling to the ground was heard beside Aoko. Poochie. Immediately after that, the sound of something being pierced rang out. Blood splattered into the sky. Chapter 340. Ouchie Orange only felt a gust of wind blowing from her side. Then, a presence appeared beside her, in front of Golden Wolf Bio. Poochie. A tearing sound echoed almost at the same time, bringing with it a burst of dark red blood. Splat. Amidst the splashing sound, Ouchie Orange's cheek felt cold. The liquid that couldn't be seen clearly splashed on the side of her face, bringing with it a strong smell of blood. A liquid with the smell of blood. Besides blood, Ouchie Orange couldn't think of anything else. Ouchie Orange's pupils slowly shrank to the size of a needle tip. Her mind was blank. Like a rusty robot, she slowly turned her head and looked to her side. Splat! Splat! Large amounts of crimson blood dripped onto the ground, forming a moderately sized pool of blood. Huff! Golden Wolf Bio let out a sound that could not be heard. His originally shining golden body seemed to have suddenly dimmed and lost its luster. That was because Golden Wolf Bio's body was mostly dyed red by blood. Taking a closer look, a pitch-black sword with pure white patterns on it had pierced through Golden Wolf Bio's chest and came out from his back. A large amount of blood gushed out from the Golden Wolf Bio's body. And in front of Golden Wolf Bio, Noah, who had appeared out of nowhere, used the knight's sword in his hand to fiercely pierce through Golden Wolf Bio's body. His eyes were still blooming with a fierce light that hadn't dissipated yet. No matter if it was Ouchie Orange, Ouchie Aoko, or Juyuji Yuju, they were all shocked by this extremely sudden scene in front of them. When did he attack? When did he get there? When did he hold a weapon from who knows where? At this moment, all of this became unimportant. Most importantly, in just the blink of an eye, Noah directly dealt a fatal blow to the Golden Wolf Bio, who only existed in fantasy and legends and was even stronger than the dragons at the peak of the fantasy breed. You! Ouchie Orange finally recovered from her shock and quickly retreated. Roar! Golden Wolf Bio let out a violent roar. His front claws were like a flash of golden lightning. With a sudden wave, it was enough to cut through space, bringing with it a gust of wind, and fiercely cut towards Noah in front of him. However, the sharp claws that turned into lightning directly cut through the air in front of its owner. Dah! Not far away, Noah's figure suddenly appeared out of thin air. His feet touched the ground, and he quickly retreated. Looking at Noah's ghostly appearance, Ouchie Orange couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. If it was Kilda's, he would know that Noah was not really a ghost. He was just controlling the distance between him and Noah. Yes. Controlled distance. Noah's knight's sword was a magic weapon that could control a range of 100 meters. The moment Ouchie Orange announced the start of the battle, Noah directly poured the magic in his body into the knight's sword, activating this ability that he hadn't used for a long time. The less than 100 meters distance between him and Bio was infinitely reduced to zero. It was as if he directly passed through space and appeared. The following matter was much easier. Under the situation where the distance was infinitely reduced, the speed of Noah's slash increased by nearly 100 times. In addition, there was a row of speed runes on the knight's sword. Golden Wolf Bio, who was just preparing to fight, naturally couldn't react in time, and was directly killed. This was Noah's surprise attack plan. It could be considered as a return gift to Golden Wolf Bio, who also appeared in front of him and launched a surprise attack against him. With Golden Wolf Bio's intelligence, there was naturally no way for him to understand the mystery of Noah's sword. However, the intense pain from the fatal wounds on his body completely aroused Golden Wolf Bio's ferocious nature, causing his gem-like resplendent eyes to turn scarlet red. Roar! Immediately, a berserk roar erupted from Golden Wolf Bio's mouth, which was constantly spitting out blood. Whing! Suddenly, Golden Wolf Bio's entire body emitted a dazzling light. In the dazzling light, Golden Wolf Bio directly turned into a meteor-like radiance. With a turn, he fiercely shot out. Shio! In the sharp sound of breaking the air, the golden meteor was like a meteorite falling from the sky. It rubbed against the atmosphere, causing the atmosphere to tremble and panic. The outline of the meteor seemed to be wrapped in a layer of flames as it mercilessly crashed into Noah's body. This process didn't even take a second. It was also only the blink of an eye. However, Noah was able to appear in front of Golden Wolf Bio in the blink of an eye, completely relying on the knight's sword's ability to control the distance within 100 meters. Golden Wolf Bio, on the other hand, relied purely on speed. This speed was even faster than the last time he retreated in front of Noah. Moreover, it wasn't just a bit faster. His field of vision was occupied by the dazzling light emitted by the golden meteor. At this critical moment, Noah's face tightened. He fiercely raised the knight's sword in his hand and placed it horizontally in front of his chest. The golden meteor directly crashed into the knight's sword. Clang! A shockingly loud sound that was 100 times louder than when the giant bell was fiercely struck suddenly shook the air like a storm, blowing in all directions. Noah only felt an unparalleled force impact the knight's sword in his hand. It was as if a heavy mountain was directly pressing down on it. The impact made Noah's hand numb. His body trembled, and he was heavily sent flying. In a hurry, Noah only had time to stabilize his body and forcefully stomp on the ground. Gotcha! Where his foot landed, the ground was suddenly trampled by Noah. Paw 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 paw. Even in such a situation, Noah still couldn't dispel all of the force. His body was pushed back violently, and in a series of bone-chilling shattering sounds, wherever he passed, the ground was crushed by Noah's powerful stomp, leaving 2 deep trenches in the ground. Shio! The golden beast that turned into a meteor-like dazzling light did not show any mercy. Once again, it pierced through the air and shot in the direction of Noah, who was still madly retreating on the ground. Ding! At this moment, the sound of a bell faintly rang. Splash! Immediately, the sound of something falling into the water also rang. Build it up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay, build it up with wood and clay, my fair lady. When such a song came from the ground also shook like an explosion. It cracked open like a volcanic eruption, and a large piece protruded out. Wood and clay will wash away, falling down, build it up with bricks and mortar, my fair lady. The song was still reverberating, and as heavy and vigorous as a tower, fingers rose from the ground, forming a huge arm. Like a bridge, it suddenly waved in the direction of the golden meteor that was exploding towards Noah. The golden meteor that was flying through the air suddenly stopped without any warning. Dong! The huge arm landed in front of the golden meteor, causing the ground to tremble and rocks to crumble. Circuit. Continue. In the next second, an awe-inspiring voice rang out. Pang 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 pang. The phosphorescent blue light formed into heavy cannonballs, and with a dull thud, they landed one by one on the golden meteor's body. Pang 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 pang. Blue flames and thick smoke exploded on the golden meteor's body at the same time. Impressively, it was Aoko's magic bullet. As for that gigantic arm, it belonged to one of Yuju's strongest tamed demons, Thames Troll. Aoko. Yuju. Aoko's angry voice echoed above the stone ground. Don't forget. There's still us. Following that, Aoko's resolute voice resounded and reverberated in the air. Chapter 341. As a fantasy breed that was born from mystery and miracles, Golden Wolf Bio wouldn't be defeated by the magic of modern magicians under the rules of magic where mystery was defeated by a higher level of mystery. Therefore, when Aoko's magic bullet hit Golden Wolf Bio's body, not only did it not cause any injury, Golden Wolf Bio didn't even feel the slightest bit of pain. However, Aoko's overconfident attack angered Golden Wolf Bio. Roar! Amid a soul-trembling howl, the golden meteor rotated and transformed back into its golden wolf form as if it were a liquid. Golden Wolf Bio, who had once again returned to his sacred golden wolf form, not only did his resplendent fur return to its original dazzling golden color, but the fatal wound on his body that was enough to kill an ordinary life form had also disappeared. It was as if nothing had happened. Seeing this scene from afar, Noah didn't show any surprise or shock. He only revealed a troubled expression as if he had expected this. Golden Wolf Bio was a miracle born from fantasy. Other than his lack of intelligence, he could be considered a perfect life form. As a fantasy breed, although Golden Wolf Bio was born in the form of a werewolf, his body wasn't fixed. Like a materialized soul, he could freely choose his own appearance. Therefore, the Golden Wolf Bio could transform into a golden meteor, a majestic gorilla, a powerful bull, or even a human form. It could transform into any form it wanted, and it could transform into anything. Even a disgusting existence like a protozoa could have a decent regenerative ability. Noah wasn't surprised at all that such a miraculous life form had a terrifying regenerative ability and an immortal body. However, in this way, it would be difficult to defeat Golden Wolf Bio. Aoko seemed to have considered the same thing. Her pretty face tensed up, and her arm that was flickering with phosphorescence subconsciously aimed at Golden Wolf Bio. Roar! Golden Wolf Bio howled at the moon. Amidst the resounding howl, his four limbs tightened. Bang! The ground that was trampled by his four powerful limbs let out a mournful cry and shattered into pieces. The Golden Wolf Bio shot out like an arrow. The fur on his body flowed like liquid. He was like a dazzling golden spear. Wherever he passed, the atmosphere would be torn apart. He was like a bolt of lightning as he shot toward Aoko Aozaki. Aoko didn't even have time to react. She only saw a blur before a sacred golden light appeared in front of her. Qingzi! Beside him, Yuzhu could not help but cry out in alarm. The Golden Wolf Bio's eyes flashed with an ominous glint. He mercilessly raised his front paw and ruthlessly slapped at Aoko, bringing along a wave of pressure that made people's hearts tighten. If Aoko was hit by this attack, with Golden Wolf Bio's strength, she would definitely die. From start to finish, Aoko Aozaki was unable to react in time. After all, the existence that had attacked Aoko was far too weak compared to her. Unless Aoko was able to use magic that originated from her origin, she definitely wouldn't be able to match the Golden Wolf Bio. Fortunately, there was someone on Aoko's side who wasn't any weaker than the Golden Wolf Bio. Just as the Golden Wolf Bio's sharp claws violently swung out, a figure seemed to appear out of thin air. Amidst the tremors of space, this figure appeared without leaving a trace. He raised his pitch-black knight sword full of fluctuating pure white patterns and engraved with runes, and met that terrifying claw with a hair's breadth. Clang! Like heavy steel colliding with steel, the sound of metal colliding was aroused in front of Aoko. Like a storm, ripples spread out in all directions. Aoko's tall and slender figure was swept up by the shockwave, and even Yuzhu was affected by it. Immediately, the two girls were blown into the air without any suspense. Woo! The towering Thames troll let out a long roar that sounded like it came from the horizon. It raised its bridge-like hands and caught Aoko and Yuzhu, who were blown into the air, in the middle of its palms, blocking the unreasonable impact. Ha! Roar! Immediately, from the center of the shockwave, a cold shout and a roar sounded at the same time. Bang! Amidst a heavy muffled sound, the already violent shockwave became even more violent, exploding out in all directions. Bang! This was the sound of the ground directly collapsing into gravel. Paw! It was the sound of the trees in the forest that surrounded the stony ground breaking and falling. Whoosh! At the center of the fierce impact, two figures flew out from the inside with a sharp sound of air breaking. They continuously pulled apart the distance between them, but at a certain moment, they steadied themselves at the same time. They fiercely stomped on the ground. Instead of retreating, they advanced and charged forward. Chi! The excessive speed made one person and one beast turn into two streams of light, one white and one gold. Like a thunderbolt, they flashed through the air and heavily collided with each other. Dong! Amidst the thunderous noise, the two streams of light, one white and one gold, separated from each other amidst the surging waves. They then spun around like fish in water, drawing a beautiful arc in the air before colliding with each other once again. Dong! 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 Therefore, on the stone ground that was incomparably weak compared to the power of one person and one beast, the two streams of light, one white and one gold, crazily collided again and again. After separating, they collided again and again. Like a meteor chasing each other, they gradually moved the battlefield. Looking at the two streams of light, one white and one gold, gradually moving further away, and then looking at the scene that had become battered and exhausted as if it had been attacked by a violent storm. Everywhere, there were cracks on the ground, broken stones, and holes. Even Aoko Aochi and Yoshu's cheeks were slightly pale. He can actually fight with Bio like that monster. Aochi Aoko's expression became gloomy, but after a while, she relaxed. Raising her head, she looked at Aochi Aoko and Yushu who were standing on the palm of the Thames Troll and smiled cruelly. In this way, both of our trump cards have been used at the same time. What do you plan to do next? As soon as her voice fell, the magical power in Aochi's body rose little by little. Aoko Aoki and Yushu, who were standing on the palm of the Thames Troll, noticed that tiny dots of light, like fireflies, were slowly appearing in the surrounding forest and on the stone ground. That is. Aoko Aochi and Yoshu's expression changed. Those tiny specks of light were actually runes. That was Aochi's magic, the same magic as Noah's runi magic. Aochi! Aoko Aochi glared at her sister below. In order to eliminate the traps you set here, I spent a lot of time. On the contrary, it was much easier to engrave these runes, and I finally finished it. Aochi laughed cruelly. Aochi, you just said not to forget about you, but you forgot about me. Don't tell me you think I'm just watching from the side. Now, you are in my territory. Aochi's eyes revealed a hint of happiness. Future mage, pure-blooded witch, don't let me down. Aoko Aochi clenched her fists in the face of Aochi's provocative words. She suppressed all the emotions in her heart and calmed down. This is Aochi's territory, and it's not good for us. Yushu, what should we do? Let's fight. Yushu said concisely. The opponent has their territory, and we also have our advantages. After saying that, Yushu secretly glanced in a direction, which attracted Aoko Aochi's gaze. In the next moment, Aoko Aochi saw it. She saw the gorgeous scabbard inserted in the ground, which was blooming with golden light. That was left behind by Noah before he left. Yoshu's voice slowly sounded. We are being taken care of, Aochi. If we lose, it will be very embarrassing. Aoko Aochi's eyes flashed with a strange light, and after a while, she calmed down. Aochi took a deep breath, and her face revealed a stern expression. Isn't that a given? The battle of fate had begun here. Chapter 342. In the tranquil forest, a small stream flowed down from the mountain peak in the distance. It was like a small Milky Way, embellishing this lush mountain, causing the surroundings of the stream to be filled with a peaceful feeling. However, this tranquility did not last for long. Whoosh! Two streams of light, one white and one gold, were like two meteors chasing each other. They suddenly appeared in the midst of a sharp sonic boom. They circled in the sky above the forest like swallows, and then they suddenly collided head-on. Boom! For a moment, as if a meteorite had collided with the earth, a deafening loud noise exploded in the sky above the forest. It carried a strong shockwave, and like a gale, it attacked in all directions, blowing the tall trees in the forest below. Bang! In the heavy sound of collision, the two streams of light, one white and one gold, in the center of the impact, were like two rubber balls that had hit the wall. They suddenly bounced off each other and landed in a corner of the forest below. Not only did they smash the ground into pieces, but they also did not reduce their momentum at all, and only slowly stopped after rubbing out a long gully. Noah, who was holding the knight's sword, supported himself with one hand on the ground. His body was like a crouching leopard, and the moment he stabilized his body, he raised his head and looked at the opposite side with a dignified expression. Roar! Opposite Noah, the golden wolf Beo's body was also tense. He arched his body and let out a roar that shook the air in the direction of Noah. In his emerald green eyes, ferocity was constantly rolling, making the beautiful and sacred figure of the golden wolf Beo look full of wildness, and it was terrifying. However, perhaps because he did not expect that he still could not finish off his opponent, the golden wolf Beo's ferocious beast eyes revealed a hint of fear and caution. He was like a lone wolf that was slowly approaching its prey, staring at Noah who was opposite him. Presumably, with the intelligence of the golden wolf Beo, there was no way for him to understand why he, who had always been invincible in the past, could not finish off his opponent this time. Compared to the golden wolf Beo, Noah was also more cautious in his heart. If one were to observe carefully, they would discover that Noah's hand that was holding the sword was actually trembling slightly. Feeling his arm trembling uncontrollably, Noah stared at the golden wolf Beo with flickering eyes. His strength, defense, and speed are all above mine. Noah's body had been strengthened many times by the protozoan virus. Coupled with the DNA of various species, in terms of physical ability, he was definitely not weaker than any of the cursed children. However, compared to the golden wolf Beo who was made up of mysteries and miracles, not only did he only exist in fantasy, but he was also affected by the world fragment. If it was just physical strength alone, there was indeed no way to contend against him. Needless to say, after several confrontations, he was able to numb Noah's arm with just his strength. Needless to say, he was very strong. Furthermore, the golden wolf Beo was able to use his claws to fight against Noah's knight's sword, which was strengthened by a large number of hardening and sharpening runes. It was easy to imagine how high his body's defense was. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that Noah had already seen that the golden wolf Beo's true strength was not his strength nor his defense, but his speed. If it was not for the fact that Noah was able to use the knight's sword's ability to control the distance at will and leap, he would not have been able to fight with the golden wolf Beo to a standstill. In the last confrontation, although Noah had used his full strength, he had hidden his knight's sword and revolver. The golden wolf Beo did not seem to have used his full strength in the first confrontation. Just like Noah, he had hidden some of his strength. Therefore, in this battle, no matter if it was Noah or the golden wolf Beo who was lacking in intelligence, both of them had a complete understanding of the situation. At this moment, the opponent in front of them was a strong enemy in the truest sense. After understanding this point, the golden wolf Beo did not care for the time being. However, Noah laughed, and he laughed very excitedly. If I don't do this, then it would be boring. As soon as he finished speaking, a dense blue flame suddenly burned on Noah's body. Come. It's your turn. Magician. The other weapon in Noah's soul not only directly awakened from its master's call, it also released its true power in an instant. Dense blue flames rolled up amidst the vibrations in the air. They flowed out and gathered on Noah's back, turning into inorganic mechanical wings. Kacha! The pitch-black wing rotated, and the nozzle at the tip of the wing emitted a large amount of black light with a bang sound. Like two pairs of pitch-black light wings, they spread out on Noah's back. On the inorganic mechanical black wings that formed the wings of light, streams of light constantly flowed on the mysterious runes. The magician, who had transformed into the death feather form, stuck close to Noah's back, allowing Noah to float. Of course, Noah didn't just unleash his magician. Looking carefully, on Noah's arm, a bright light pattern spread out, covering Noah's sword hand. Impressively, it was the enhanced magic. The two weapons that were born from the soul blaze. The mysterious runes on the weapons that were added to the soul, none. In addition, there was another skill that he had trained for a long time, enhance. At this moment, Noah finally brought out all his strength in the truest sense. He no longer held anything back. Bang! The magician, who had transformed into the death feather form, spat out a large amount of black light, forming two pairs of pitch-black light wings, pushing away all of the surrounding airflow, causing the atmosphere to tremble. Noah looked at the golden wolf Bio with a burning gaze. Those pitch-black eyes flickered with vigor, causing the golden wolf Bio's hair to stand up like spikes, and he let out a threatening roar. In response, Noah just calmly raised the knight's sword in his hand and said, "Come." Roar. As if provoked, the golden wolf Bio stared at Noah with his blood-red eyes, and then his four limbs fiercely stomped on the ground. Bang! A huge crack spread out from under the golden wolf Bio's feet, causing the golden wolf Bio's body to explode with a terrifying sound. He suddenly appeared in the air in front of Noah, who had left the ground. His sharp claws were like the edge of a blade, flickering with a cold light, and fiercely slashed at Noah's throat. Paw! Wherever the sharp claws passed, a few faint black marks were cut out in the air. Seeing this, Noah's eyes flashed. With a thought, the magician on his back immediately spat out a pair of black light wings, pushing the air, causing Noah to quickly retreat. An afterimage emerged like a phantom. Swish! The golden wolf Bio's attack directly hit the air. With the death feather form of the magician, in addition to the speed rune on the magician, Noah's speed was finally not inferior to the golden wolf Bio, and he easily dodged the golden wolf Bio's fierce attack. Roar! The golden wolf Bio angrily roared. His body flew out, cutting through the air, and once again appeared in front of Noah. His sharp claws and teeth carried a deep sound as they pierced through the air, and fiercely smashed towards Noah in front of him. Looking at the storm-like golden wolf Bio, Noah bent his finger and flicked it. A bright white light suddenly flashed in front of him. Bang! The golden wolf Bio's sharp claws fiercely smashed into the white light, bringing about a deep sound. However, in the next moment, the white light wrapped around the golden wolf Bio's sharp claws. Bang! In the white light, the golden wolf Bio's sharp claws actually directly shattered and exploded. Super advanced destruction magic, crush. Roar! The golden wolf Bio let out a painful low roar. At this moment, the knight's sword in Noah's hand trembled as he retreated, causing Noah's body to suddenly disappear. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the golden wolf Bio. Soon after, a fist that was mixed with a whirlpool of air heavily smashed onto the waist of the golden wolf Bio. That was the annihilation strike. Dong! In the muffled sound, the golden wolf Bio's low roar came to an abrupt end. His body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string, and heavily smashed into the ground. Chapter 343. Bang! With a muffled sound, a golden wolf Bio heavily smashed into the ground, smashing the ground into smithereens. Countless gravel flew up and buried golden wolf Bio's not-so-huge body. Roar! However, not long after, a violent roar reverberated from the center of the pile of gravel, transforming into a sound wave that blew away the gravel on the ground, causing golden wolf Bio to once again appear in the air. Roar! The sharp pain from his back aroused golden wolf Bio's ferocious spirit, causing a malevolent emotion to emerge in golden wolf Bio's eyes. Staring at Noah, who was floating in the air, a roar erupted from his throat. Stomp! With a resounding stomping sound, Golden Wolf Bio violently rushed out, like a rocket soaring into the sky, rushing towards Noah who was in the air. Looking at Golden Wolf Bio who was shooting towards him like a rocket, Noah's expression shook, but a bright vortex of brilliance filled the air under his feet. Like a violent impact, with a bang sound, Noah didn't retreat, but instead advanced. In an instant, the dual blessings of a magician and a great leap erupted, causing Noah's speed to reach an extremely terrifying level. Like a cannonball, he fiercely collided with Golden Wolf Bio who was attacking him. Clang! The pitch-black night sword fiercely collided with Golden Wolf Bio's sharp claws. The crisp sound of metal clashing against metal also stirred up a terrifying air wave that violently surged out. Kacha kacha kacha. Below, the entire forest ground and trees were mercilessly affected by the shock wave. At this moment, all of them exploded and turned into powder. Bang 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 bang. At the side of the forest, the water surface of the stream that was originally flowing in an extremely regular manner kept on exploding. Waves that were several meters high were actually blasted up, as if they were favored by a strong wind. The waves flipped over and drowned the nearby trees. Unknowingly, Golden Wolf Bio's shattered front claws had already recovered. Golden Wolf Bio's body also trembled, turning into a golden rainbow. In a breath's time, he appeared in front of Noah. A pair of sharp dagger-like claws repeatedly swung out, stabbing towards Noah's neck and chest. Ding ding. However, although Golden Wolf Bio's speed was fast, Noah's speed was not inferior to Golden Wolf Bio's with the support of the Death Feather, Form, Magician, and Leap. Before Golden Wolf Bio's sharp claws could land on his body, the night sword made a swoosh sound and blocked the attack, easily blocking the attack of the sharp claws. After the attack failed, Golden Wolf Bio's mood seemed to become even more irritable. A dazzling golden light wrapped around his pair of sharp claws, as if they had turned into two golden pythons. Like lightning, they bypassed the night sword and viciously slashed towards Noah's head. Whing! Unfortunately, just as those python-like sharp claws swept out, a brilliant white light flashed from Noah's body, enveloping Golden Wolf Bio's pair of sharp claws. Bang! In the midst of an explosion, within the white light, Golden Wolf Bio's pair of sharp claws were shattered on the spot and turned into flying ash. Clang! Almost at the same time, the light on the pitch-black night sword greatly increased, and the runes on the body of the sword lit up one by one. The pitch-black night sword also trembled, and with a sword cry, it turned into a white light. With a sharp slashing sound, it fiercely stabbed towards Golden Wolf Bio's direction. With the support of the night sword's ability to control the distance and the runes of the acceleration, this sword was simply like a white light flashing through space. It was incomparably fast. Golden Wolf Bio's forte was his speed, but under this attack, even Golden Wolf Bio's speed paled in comparison. However, just when Noah thought that this attack was going to pierce through Golden Wolf Bio's body like before, something strange happened to Golden Wolf Bio's body again. Roar! In the midst of a soul-shaking howl, Golden Wolf Bio's entire body rose with a dazzling golden light. Golden Wolf Bio's body seemed to have disintegrated, scattering into rays of light that filled the sky, without a real body. Clang! Shortening the distance to the limit, and with the support of the acceleration rune, the pitch-black night sword directly pierced through the rays of light that filled the sky, as if it had fallen into thin air. With a sharp sound of breaking through the air, it completely missed, and at this moment, the strong rays of light that rose in the surroundings actually twisted, and amidst the vibrations of space, they all condensed together. Not long after, they turned into a huge golden eagle. Screech! A sharp screech sounded from the golden eagle's mouth, waking up Noah and making Noah's expression change. Whoosh! Immediately after, Golden Wolf Bio, who had turned into a golden eagle, directly swooped down like a sharp arrow, and violently swept towards Noah. At this moment, Golden Wolf Bio's speed was much faster than before. In just a flash, he appeared in front of Noah. Whoosh! Under Noah's gaze, the two sharp claws of the golden eagle turned into countless rays of golden light, drawing a pitch-black mark in the air, almost covering the entire range of Noah's surroundings. With a piercing chill, it mercilessly enveloped Noah's direction. Noah's eyes focused, and at this moment, the wings of death, form of the magician, behind him also suddenly unfolded. Kacha! The tip of the inorganic machine-like wings no longer spouted out black rays of light, but rapidly secreted pieces of pitch-black steel-like scales, instantly forming a dense steel net, extending to the front, and wrapping Noah's body inch by inch. Ding, 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 ding. The overwhelming golden rays of light poured down on the steel net formed by the magician, and immediately, a series of crisp sounds burst out. Every time a clear sound rang out, an enormous shock wave would swiftly surge out, bringing about waves of wild gales in the vast space above the forest, spreading out like a natural disaster. Screech! After not being able to finish off Noah for a long time, the golden wolf Bio, who had transformed into a golden eagle, became more and more ferocious. The sharp screech, as if unable to endure, came out from the golden eagle's sharp mouth, causing the golden light on the golden eagle's body to become more and more brilliant, and its attacks also became more and more violent. Ding, 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 ding. The crisp sounds became louder and louder, like raindrops, from the steel net formed by the magician, and even caused bursts of sparks to fly like water splashes. The aura of the golden wolf Bio, who had transformed into a golden eagle, fiercely soared. From afar, it was like a fierce beast from ancient times, emitting a malevolent and fiendish aura, causing people to be afraid. Kacha! Suddenly, the surface of the magician, that had transformed into a steel net, with a mechanical kacha sound, suddenly twisted, slightly rotating, and a pitch-black muzzle protruded out. The pitch-black energy lingered around the muzzle, like a condensed light, rapidly revolving around the muzzle, causing the entire muzzle to flash with a dense light. Screech! The golden eagle's pair of sharp beast pupils contracted, and an instinctive warning broke out in its heart. Swish! Immediately, the golden eagle flapped its wings without hesitation, and retreated quickly. Whing! The dense light condensed and the pitch-black muzzle exploded at the same time, turning into a pitch-black light beam, and shot out. The light beam that penetrated the heavens and the earth shot out, and the space directly collapsed into pitch-black cracks, causing the heaven and earth to seem to be overshadowed, becoming dull and dull. Screech! The golden eagle only had time to let out a sharp cry, and its body fiercely moved to the side. The light beam that penetrated the heavens and the earth directly swept past half of the golden eagle's body, and shot into the sky. The half of the body that was touched by the pitch-black light beam seemed to vaporize, and suddenly burned in the air, collapsing and disappearing. Screech! The golden eagle let out a sad cry, and there was a burst of very obvious anger in the cry. Before the light beam dissipated, the remaining half of the golden eagle's body suddenly disintegrated, and finally turned into a golden whirlwind, rolling in the direction of Noah. Noah, who had just let the magician transform back into the form of Death Feather, and once again suspended in the air, was startled, and then he was swept into the golden whirlwind. Chapter 344. Dash. The howling of the wind lingered in the air above the forest. However, the howling of the wind was a form that ordinary winds would never be able to possess. The golden whirlwind seemed to be derived from the sun. Not only did it bring along a heat wave that distorted one's vision, it was also emitting a bright golden light that could not be ignored. Woo dash! Woo dash! In the midst of the raging golden whirlwind, Noah was like a small boat in a storm, swaying up and down uncontrollably along with the waves. Especially the surrounding scorching wind. Noah's entire body was emitting smoke as if it was on fire, causing Noah's skin to hurt. Wang 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 wang. Behind Noah, the tip of the magician's wings in the form of wings of death was crazily emitting a large amount of black light, forming a pushing force that bitterly supported Noah's body, preventing Noah from spinning away in the wind. However, he could not control the ups and downs of his body. In such an environment, Noah's entire body seemed to be imprisoned by an invisible binding. He could not move at all. Even if he used leap, he could not rush out of the center of the whirlwind, he could only bitterly struggle. Similarly, the knight's sword's ability to freely control the distance was also unable to take effect at this time. After all, the knight's sword could only control the distance of 100 meters, and that was only limited to controlling the distance. If the knight's sword's ability was to control space, then Noah could instantly teleport and leave the center of the whirlwind. However, the knight's sword's ability was to control the distance. No matter how short the distance was, this distance still existed. It was impossible to truly reduce it to zero. As long as there was a distance, the whirlwind would be able to take effect within this distance. If Noah wanted to cross this shortened distance, he would still have to move forward against the golden whirlwind. Since it's like this. Feeling the intense pain from the hot wind all over his body, Noah's face revealed a trace of ruthlessness. The magic in his body was like another whirlwind, violently surging out. Let it all be reduced to dust. As soon as his voice fell, the mana that surged out of Noah's body like a whirlwind turned into a dazzling white light that suddenly expanded like an ocean. Roar! Within the golden whirlwind, the golden wolf Beo's resounding roar reverberated throughout the entire golden whirlwind, as if he felt a trace of threat from Noah's actions. Bang! Not long after, a golden flame appeared out of thin air within the golden whirlwind. It rolled up and absorbed all the heat within the whirlwind. The fluctuations condensed and finally turned into a golden sea of fire that was dozens of meters wide. The golden flames were churning, making crackling sounds like that of calcining steel. It was as if he was in a furnace, and even the space was distorted. Is this your last resort? At the center of the whirlwind, Noah's eyes flashed with a sharp light as he looked at the sea of golden flames. His voice was like that of a god's judgment, echoing through the surroundings. Then let's end this battle. The white light that spread out like an ocean suddenly revolved, and like a white black hole, it suddenly expanded and exploded in all directions. At this moment, Noah displayed his own crushing magic to the extreme. The mana within his body surged out as if it was free, causing the slowly rotating white hole to tremble and expand rapidly. Soon after, a tearing sound burst out, mixed with a terrifying amount of mana and energy, engulfing the golden sea of fire in the distance. Buzz! The enormous golden sea of fire immediately churned violently. The flames whistled and spiraled. Finally, they vaguely agglomerated into a huge golden beast. The appearance of the golden beast seemed to have consumed a lot of the golden wolf Beo's energy, causing the golden whirlwind that bound Noah to become slightly dimmer. However, from that golden beast, Noah felt a real threat. Its body was extremely huge, not the slightest bit smaller than a small hill. Its shape was similar to the golden wolf Beo's wolf form, but there was a single golden horn on its head, flickering with a resplendent golden light. The appearance of that huge golden beast made Noah's heart tighten. He did not dare to underestimate it in the slightest. The mana within his body was crazily squandered, causing the crushing magic that had turned into a white hole to become even larger. Thus, the white hole that had locked onto its target did not hesitate in the slightest. As if it had teleported, it brought about terrifying spatial ripples in a few flashes, causing the surrounding golden whirlwind that filled the sky to tremble slightly. Roar! At the same time, the golden beast also erupted with an aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Raising its head, it let out a thunderous roar. Its four hooves moved, and like a rampaging mountain, it ferociously charged towards the white hole without any fear. The distance between the white hole and the golden beast was closed in an instant. Soon after, under Noah's gaze, two terrifying attacks that could burn mountains and boil seas collided with the solidified golden whirlwind in the surroundings like meteors. In the second when the two came into contact, the entire world became silent. The heavens and the earth suddenly turned violent, and the winds that filled the sky danced in all directions. It looked as if they were frantically escaping from the center of the collision. Immediately after, like a star contracting and exploding, the center of the collision contracted, and a moment later, it exploded. Rumble. Like a natural disaster, an impact storm erupted from a certain point of collision in the sky. Boom. The terrifying impact storm instantly expanded to cover an area of 100 meters, causing the thick, pitch-black clouds in the sky to scatter. In the blink of an eye, they were blown away without a trace. The storm spanned across the entire world. The surrounding temperature seemed to have suddenly risen to the boiling point, causing the air in the space above the forest to become extremely dry. Ripples of wind and waves spread out from the horizon, occupying more than half of the sky, causing the space in the sky to become distorted and blurry. Paw 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 paw. In the forest below, the trees that had already suffered great damage from the battle between Noah and the golden wolf Bio finally could no longer support themselves. One after another, they snapped and fell to the ground. Caw 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 caw. On the ground, no matter how hard the rocks were, they were completely shattered at this moment, turning into countless gravel that fell to the ground with a crackling sound. Boom. Even if it was a place that was slightly far away, as long as it was slightly affected, the ground would immediately crack, and the trees would collapse. This caused the entire mountain to lose a large part of the forest, and the ground seemed to have been plowed, as a layer was directly scraped away. After a long time, the impact storm that permeated the sky began to gradually dissipate after spreading for an extremely long distance. However, the two auras that should have been in the center of the storm seemed to have directly disappeared, without the slightest movement. Swish! In the vast sky, in the impact storm that had yet to completely dissipate, suddenly, the sound of wind breaking rang out, and a black shadow also appeared from the storm. However, this black shadow did not show any signs of moving at all. Like a piece of trash falling from the sky, it powerlessly fell down. At the same time, another sharp sound of something breaking through the air rang out. The impact storm that permeated the sky suddenly squirmed, and a figure violently rushed out from within. Behind his back, the two pairs of pitch-black light wings were particularly conspicuous. Under such circumstances, the pitch-black light wings shook, and the figure of its owner turned into a stream of light, explosively shooting towards the black shadow that was rapidly falling to the ground. In the blink of an eye, he appeared above the opponent's head. Roar! The golden wolf Bio unyieldingly let out a howl that shook the entire world. Looking at the madness in his opponent's beast eyes, Noah's dark eyes flashed with a bright expression, and then suddenly focused. Wang! On Noah's fist, a gorgeous white light fluctuated, and mixed with an incomparably fierce wind and powerful magic power, in the midst of the golden wolf Bio's wild howl, it ruthlessly smashed onto his chest. Boom! Under the impact of the crushing magic and annihilation strike, at the same time, the golden wolf Bio's body exploded, turning into a sky full of golden light. Within the golden light, pieces of broken feathers slowly appeared. Chapter 345. Ding! It was a pleasant and crisp sound like a wind chime. Just like a bird flying under the protection of the gods, the broken feathers emitting a soft white light gently floated down and fell to the ground. Da! With the pitch-black night sword in his hand and the magician in the form of a pair of light wings, Noah floated down along with the fragment of the world. With a clear sound of landing, he finally stood on the ground once again. However, compared to the beginning, the ground had long since become like a large earthquake. Not only were there potholes everywhere, there were also traces of cracks. Tree fragments were scattered all over the ground. It was extremely messy and unbearable to look at. Compared to the ground, the sky was not at a disadvantage at all. Caw caw caw. In the area that was still covered by the impact of the previous storm, the space cracked, revealing pitch-black cracks that made one's heart palpitate. Moreover, the cracks were still spreading to the surroundings, and it was likely that they would not dissipate for a period of time. Noah's crushing magic at full strength was indeed quite domineering. With the support of an extremely sufficient amount of magic, it could even shatter space. At this level, even Kildas who also had the crushing magic might not be able to do it. After all, even if Kilda's mastery and control of the crushing magic was not inferior to Noah's, Kilda certainly did not have the extremely vast amount of magic that Noah had. He simply could not support the crushing magic to such an extent. Fortunately, the battle was on a mountaintop far away from the traces of people. Otherwise, if Noah and the Golden Wolf Bio were to battle in Sanyi City, it would definitely cause an unimaginable disaster. Ding! The fragment of the world that was emitting a soft white light was still making light sounds as it slowly floated down from the air. Noah reached out his hand and held the broken feathers in his hand. Feeling the familiar power and emotion on it, he let out a heavy breath. The pitch-black night sword and magician simultaneously turned into a green flame and dissipated in the air. Ha! Noah took a deep breath. Waves of exhaustion came from the inside of his body, causing Noah to let out a bitter laugh. How long has it been since I experienced physical exhaustion? In the battle with the Golden Wolf Bio, Noah used all of his powers except for the Black Tea King and Fairy Tale of his 3 major spells. However, the Black Tea King was unable to be used in this battle. Although Noah's Black Tea King had the excellent effect of plundering other people's abilities, it had no effect on powers that were not in the category of abilities. Since the beginning, Black Tea King's sword, naturally, the Black Tea King was unable to have any effect on him. Don't think that Golden Wolf Bio's ability to change forms like a magician. Golden Wolf Bio didn't have a fixed form to begin with, and the ability to change forms was also part of his body's power. Like water. Although the body of water was extremely ordinary water, it could change into any shape due to external factors. Could that be considered as water possessing abilities? Naturally, it was impossible. As for the 3 major spells of the fairy tale, they were indeed quite powerful. Even if he was able to use one of them, this battle would not have lasted this long. Unfortunately, the 3 major spells of the fairy tale had a flaw that could not be ignored. Usage time. The amount of time needed to use it and activate it was not short. Using it to deal with other enemies might not be a problem, but to deal with the Golden Wolf Bio, who was as fast as lightning, whether or not he could use it in time was a problem. At least, Noah had not found such an opportunity. Thus, after using his full strength, Noah had used up a lot of the boundless magic in his body. He did not overdraft it, but he still squandered it, causing Noah to feel a trace of exhaustion. Whing! At this time, in the sky, a golden light sprinkled down, slowly condensing into the form of the Golden Wolf Bio. Noah's body tensed up, fiercely looking in the direction of the Golden Wolf Bio. But when Noah thought that the reborn Golden Wolf Bio would continue to violently attack him, the scene that appeared in front of Noah made him stare blankly. Bang! With a soft thud, Golden Wolf Bio, who had regained his human form, fell to the ground as if he was paralyzed. Noah could clearly see that the eyes of the Golden Wolf Bio that had fallen to the ground were filled with wildness and ferocity. However, there was only a faint light left in those exceptionally bright gem-like eyes. The golden radiance on its body had also completely dimmed. Even its body had become illusory, as if it could disappear at any time. Seeing this scene, Noah's tensed body slowly relaxed, but he remained silent. Noah could sense that the life force of the golden wolf bio was decreasing at a terrifying rate. He was afraid that if this continued, the golden wolf bio's life would directly disappear. At that time, the golden wolf bio would naturally disappear and would not appear again. It was originally a sprite born from nature, a bundle of fantasy formed by the convergence of mystery and miracles. As a fantasy breed, the golden wolf bio's life was absolutely perfect. Not only would it not age, but it would also not die. No matter which world it went to, unless its existence could be directly erased. Otherwise, the golden wolf bio would be a perfect body that would never die. Logically speaking, it was impossible for the golden wolf bio's life to suddenly disappear like this. However, the appearance of the world fragment changed everything. In the past, Noah thought that the world fragment had lodged in the golden wolf bio's body after it was born. But now, Noah understood that it should be the opposite. If Noah had not guessed wrongly, the world fragment should have quietly stayed in a corner of this world before this. However, in this place, fantasy breeds had started to be born. Originally, the birth of a fantasy breed would take an extremely long time, but perhaps due to the influence of the world fragment itself, the fantasy, mystery, and miracles that were born in nature used the world fragment as the core and accelerated the birth. As a result, the golden wolf bio was born much earlier than it should have been. After that, under the influence of the world fragment as the core, the golden wolf bio's strength had grown at a terrifying rate. It had even grown beyond the category of a fantasy breed and reached a point where even the dragon, who stood at the peak of the fantasy breed, could not match up to it. However, because of this, the golden wolf bio's intelligence had not been able to grow sufficiently. As a result, the golden wolf bio could not have the intelligence of a human. It could only have a little spirituality and could understand human language, but its brain was not very bright. It was in this state where it was neither good nor bad. Now that the world fragment as the core had been taken back by Noah, this life that was born by relying on the world fragment naturally could not continue to exist. Just as Ouchie Orange had said, the golden wolf bio had undergone an abnormal evolution. While this evolution had brought about a terrifying growth in strength, it had also caused it to lose its intelligence and become an existence that relied on the world fragment to exist. It was no longer a perfect life form. After understanding this, Noah fell silent and slowly walked in front of the golden wolf bio. The golden wolf bio raised its head. Its body was faintly discernible and could disappear at any time. Furthermore, it was extremely weak. However, it still looked at Noah unyieldingly. Even though it had undergone an abnormal evolution, the golden wolf bio was still a fantasy breed. It had surpassed the category of a fantasy breed and was evolving toward a mythical breed. Even if it was about to disappear, even if its intelligence did not reach the level of a human, the golden wolf bio still had the pride of a fantasy breed and would not lower its head to an enemy. Seeing this, Noah sighed. In the end, you ended up in this state because of the influence of the world fragment. Seeing you disappear makes me feel very uncomfortable. I also believe that no one wants to see you, who is very likely the only fantasy breed in the current world, disappear like this. After saying this, Noah looked down at the golden wolf bio and met its gaze. Do you want to follow me? You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.